The future of comics has been in flux since the beginning of comics. If you ask anybody who reads comics, we're always in a state of doom and gloom. And we don't really subscribe to that concept here on the channel. We try to, look at things a little more objectively leaning positive. However, this is one of those situations that while we will talk positively about at some point, there's not a lot of great positive things to say about the situation involving tariffs right now and how that complicated, uh, bizarre situation will impact the industry of comics. And so we thought, given the announcement and the roller coaster ride that we've all been on over the last week, we should come and have a frank conversation about where the tariff situation leaves us. Now, I was in Canada the day that the tariffs were officially announced to be in effect. And I got to tell you, I've never felt weirder to be an American. There were people in this food market that I was in all talking about it and talking about Americans and, you know, uh, their concept, not necessarily mine, are well, mine too, our goofy ass president and all the things that he's been doing. Um, it's been really weird. And yes, now the tariffs have been paused, delayed until next month. We pushed them back, but they still loom. And in the midst of that, people are trying to make real world decisions about their future, business decisions about their future. And we don't know what the hell's going to happen within the next month.
Yeah, we had to pay a tax just to get Sean back into the door. That's why he was gone for 2 shows.
It's a weird one because even though nothing's really happened right now, like we're still in the waiting period. I think they went into effect for what 16 hours or something like that.
Yeah. A hot second.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't even know what that means. Did somebody have to pay an extra charge for something that went cheaper like an hour later? I don't know how that works.
We did. I just said it.
Yeah. Oh, Sean. Yeah. Sean, you were extra expensive that time. That was okay. This is maybe we shouldn't talk about buying Sean or having to. All right, whatever.
Yeah,
And
please.
then the idea that like even though they're not fully implemented yet, they're looming, which means that like businesses do have to make decisions. Who in the chat, Cale, you mentioned it. Mentioned like already having to decide what books to potentially drop if prices go up. And
Yeah,
we'll
that
get
was
into that later.
that was Jonathan Chow in
Yeah.
the chat. Pardon me if I mispronounced your name. He says, "Yeah, I already have a list. I have a list ready to drop them when my shop lets me know how much the books will increase."
Yeah, and I think they recently changed to flat taxes too, right? It wasn't even per sector, like it
I
was
think you're right.
originally. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was originally per
Across the board.
sector. Now it's across the board, and the Chinese ones are still on, so those are still happening. So hope you don't like your collected editions printed in China.
Yeah, trades.
It's a mess. It's messy, and does it really do anything? I don't fucking think so. Especially when you're so wishy washy on it. Like, come on, if you're gonna do it, just do it.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, this is like if I were president,
We got a full house on deck today. You've heard all our voices, but let's do the intro anyway. We've got Cale,
What's up, tax dogs?
Marco.
Cha-ching.
Why did that get you hyped, Tyler?
Man, hi, hi, hi.
Wait, who
Cale said
hyped?
tax dogs, and Marco
yeah.
loved that.
Simple man.
Marco's. We know Marco's been. We done knew Marco's been a bootlicker.
Whoa. I'm anti tariff tax.
It's funny that Marco's the one licking a foot on the show.
Oh, well, you're the one that called it out, so I don't know, man.
Just made it weird again. Okay.
And I'm Sean. Thank you guys for being here with us. Whether you are live or in the future, make sure that you smash that like button. This is going to
Smash.
be a big picture conversation. And I want to have a real talk. I want to really talk about sort of what we're going to do. Like, what's the game plan? Like, I like how Jonathan, is thinking ahead. And I've seen this sentiment a lot of people who are saying, okay, well, you know, I got a plan. I got to financially plan. How many of us, like BJ Kicks, right, from Comics Are Dope? He goes to the comic shop and he'll say, like, I've got $50. This is what I'm spending on comics this week.
Yeah, his whole
And when
channel is built on a budget.
right, and then the price of the books goes up. So it's like, well, how do you do you add money to that budget? Well, your wages didn't go up. So typically that's going to be a subtraction. And what do you subtract? Who loses? What publisher loses out?
Do you subtract 2 extra comic books or a single egg at this point? Like there will be a subtraction somewhere within anyone's budget.
You make a sacrifice somewhere.
And Amin Perez says, as an outsider, I'm looking at this with so much confusion, and that's another thing, right? Is like you've got people that aren't even from the U.S. or Canada or Mexico or China who look at this and go, "What the fuck? How does this affect me? Like what?
Hey,
And that goes to politicians too, because you've got the Prime Minister of the UK, Keir Starmer, went to the White House, I think last week, and went, "Hey, what the hell?" and where I think the result of that is still that the UK and EU are still going to be wrapped up in like steel tariffs.
import. Well, the alternative is, they go elsewhere, right? Like you start to lose that market here, and you go elsewhere. So presumably, that means the printing doesn't go to back to the States. It goes to the next cheapest place that you can find it. I don't know where that is necessarily, uh, but it leaves the sector here.
I think the proposed reasoning for this, or at least the text of it all, is forcing the U.S. to do production of all of these sectors, essentially. Paper, automotive manufacturing is a big one. But that doesn't happen overnight. And it probably won't happen. Because A, you can't just build factories overnight. That takes sometimes years to do. And sure, if those factories are built, then there's jobs. But those jobs will not be paying what the manufacturing in China is paying.
That's it.
Unless, well, the U.S. is, there's a lot of states that have been loosening their child labor laws. So maybe we can be like China.
This is a situation that I think a lot of people don't fully understand, and that's completely okay because who the hell fully understands any of this, right? But I do want to do a little bit of sort of education before we continue forward. So what is tariffs? What does that mean? It's a tax. It's a tax on imported goods, things that other countries are bringing to us, delivering to us, that we're purchasing from them. There's a fee on that, and one of the biggest misconceptions that I consistently see is people who think that the other country, the country that the tariff is imposed on, is who pays the tax, and that is not the case. Who pays the tax is us, presumably. If you're talking about like lumber, which is a massive piece of this whole tariff situation, especially with Canada. That's a big part of it. Obviously, lumber is a portion of how we get our comics. And so they are going to be more expensive to get here. And who is going to pay the cost of that? Well, probably not the businesses, right? The cost of taxes and all that stuff always trickles down to the little guy, and we are the little guy. And so the reason why everybody is so worried about this is because of the squeeze that it's going to put on us to pay the price for these tariffs.
To clarify, the business would pay the tax. So they would have to pay more, which then makes the price of things go up. So there is a couple of links and chains there, but ultimately we would be suffering the consequence because if they're a business, number must go up.
Yeah, the person who the end consumer offsets the costs, the increases rather. And like the strategy is supposed to be, okay, we do so, therefore, you're going to go into using more uh American manufacturing to boost those specific economies, but uh those local economies. But the reason those other places were being used was because they were inherently cheaper than the American options. Those American options haven't changed, right? And if anything now, they will presumably get more expensive. So even if you equate them, even if you bring the, let's say, Canadian printer to equate to the US printer, both have gone up. And that does not mean that I will now default to using the American one, right? Because that also means I have to change my entire workflow. What if I'm so integrated with that Canadian company, I still have to do business with them because I'm on a contract? You have to be able to import a certain number of volume or get penalized. Like to Tyler's point, it doesn't happen overnight. So you can't make those shifts even if there was a cheaper alternative that is American per the plan for the tariff.
And James here says manufacturing is going to come back because regulations, labor costs are still lower in other countries, and they're working on making it lower here.
Super, yeah.
OSHA is talked about as being one of those cuts for Doge, which ruins worker, I guess,
Safety.
their rights, their safety, their ability to dispute things, which the only beneficiary to any of this are the 1% like oligarchy that now runs this country. We don't need to get into all that, but
Now,
well, yeah. So like if you can see who benefits from this, if you look at it, but it is a mess, and there's a shotgun spread of changes and cuts happening across the country that affect industry all around.
I also think it's very funny that the idea is like, oh, we could just have, American companies take this stuff over. You talk about lumber, right? Like we get rid of whole forests. We get rid of those forests to put up a new shopping mall or a parking lot or whatever it is. And so the reason why Canada is where comics are printed in mass in the first place is because of the amount of tree they have and the preservation of their forest that they have. That's the point. That's the reason. We don't have it.
And I think the U.S. has I don't know the exact number, but we've earmarked around it's either 10 or 100, so big difference there, but like a million acres of national forest land to cut down in case production needs to move.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which it's cool. We don't need those national forests, right?
Please save the trees. And this is happening across the board, right? Is like tap into the resources that they have in order to offset the need to lean elsewhere. Same way with EPA regulations being removed, is so that way you're able to do more as the American company, albeit endangering the environment, to ideally offset the costs. But that takes time. It takes investment. It takes industry, and so a lot of moving parts that won't happen. It just won't happen overnight.
And if it does
And
happen, your wages aren't going up. Like, and when those new jobs come about, they're not gonna be. They're probably just gonna be paying as minimum as they can.
sure. I did just want to shout out here. Jonathan Chu said, being from Vancouver, in British Columbia, a standard 3.99 comic there is 5.20 or 5.75. So there's already costs because presumably for a Canadian that the materials to be produced get imported, that gets published, produced, exported, and so the whoever gets exports of American comic books get feel that twice over, presumably.
And it's funny you mentioned that because um I think as far as I can remember, comics have always had the price of like the book in, well, I guess they don't do that anymore, but I remember seeing like the price of a book in, American dollar, US dollar, and in Canadian,
Yeah,
and it was always more expensive. So I was always just under the assumption like, yeah, what, no big deal. And then now it's like, oh shit, that could be us. Like that 5 whatever, that could be us. Who's paying that? Who's paying that? This is crazy.
I
I
mean,
tell
like,
you, when I went to New Zealand, uh, oh, who's that fella that was in the other day? Chris.
Peter,
Chris
yeah.
Arant, yeah.
Yep.
No, not Chris Arant.
Peter from
Peter.
Near Mint, who's also in
Peter.
New Zealand.
Anyway, the comics there are so expensive. I missed a year of buying comics because they were like a single issue was, I mean, around like 10 New Zealand dollars
Damn.
versus, you know, the $3-4.99 they are here.
Yeah, we have listeners who buy comics in Australia, and they mention how expensive they are.
Crazy.
Hecatron dropped $5 on us. Thanks so much, Hecatron. And I gotta talk. We gotta talk about Hecatron a little more later because Hecatron sent me something, and I don't know what it is, but I'm gonna reveal it a little later. Hecatron says this is a moment that shows how politics affects every part of our lives. You might not care about politics, but politics cares about you. Yeah, and I think that's a really great point, right? Where everybody always says, "Oh, keep politics out of our comics, and we don't want to hear those kinds of conversations, and people might not even want to watch this video because they're worried about the political positions we might take, or whatever else. But it's like one day this will affect you. It will.
Yeah.
And you might go to the comic shop and say, whoa, what happened here? Why is Absolute Batman $7.99 now? And you won't have heard this show, and you'll have missed out on all the people talking about this issue, and you're the only idiot who didn't know that this was coming.
And I like to imagine that somebody somewhere is still like, oh, it's all because of these DEI whatever nonsense
It's a
populating our
lot
book.
of people, Marco.
But no, but then the price goes up with the consideration that all of those policies are moving away. So like the old way to blame starts to fall apart. Like at that point, you can't but point to the true villain and culprit here, Wilson Fisk.
No, say his name.
Hmm?
Say his name. Say the real thing. Don't sugarcoat it.
Yes.
Don't call him the Orange Cheeto Man. Don't call him the Couch Fucker.
I was
Call
gonna
it. Say their names.
the
Stop
Cheeto and
saying this
Cheat.
shit. Being a nasty little liberal and a little bully isn't gonna change it. Say their names. Donald Trump and JD Vance are bad. Fuck. Sorry.
Don't disagree. Yeah, I mean, like, they'll just shift blame, Marco. It's all about shifting blame. It's about pivoting and having a new boogeyman. And some people are freaking masters at it, and that's what tariffs will be once the DEI is gone. Once the reason why we're tariffing Canada is because of they're not helping the fentanyl crisis, right? A whole luggage worth of fentanyl crossed over the border of Canada within the last year. Oh no, a whole luggage worth, which I think was by Americans, by the way. So yeah, it'll change. It'll change, but like but because it's so uneven right now, and like this will affect my comic books. Ooh, boo-hoo comic books, but it'll affect everything across the board. And I think even a single guy with 2 cats, needs to think about that and prepare. Even though I'm in, liberal USA in New York City. Like Sean, if you watch Near Mint, Sean had to sell his grand piano yesterday. It's gone behind him.
Dude,
in
so sad
preparation.
about that.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't.
Oh, it's a different room. Okay.
He's still got that piano.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, how dare you tell the people my personal business. Let's talk about the comics side of this though, because comic book stores are probably going to take a hit. And actually, Tyler brings up Near Mint. The other day, I was on their channel for the Marvel solicits, and there was a retailer on there, and he was talking about, he owns Sentinel Comics. I don't remember the location, but it's called Sentinel Comics, and he was talking about what he thought this would look like on the retailer side of things and how this would materialize for them. And he posed an interesting theory that I hadn't thought of. He talked about how he didn't think the cover price of comics would actually go up. He said that what he thought they would do is there are thresholds that each publisher
Sure.
has, and then you get a discount. He posited that that threshold would actually just go up. And so if you wanted your DC discount and that meant you had to order, let's say, 100 books a month, now you'd have to order 150. So the store would eat the price increase by having to order more to get the same discount they were getting previously.
But
How do you guys, does that smack to you, Marco?
that's devious, because if you're a store that already is at a lower threshold, you raising the threshold means that not only do you have to then pay for the same volume, or pay an additional cost for the same volume, but that the ability to reach the next threshold goes farther and farther away. And presumably, if the costs go up, you obviously, as the end consumer, have to figure out a way where that's coming from. Maybe you lose out on volume. Maybe you decide, actually, I can't afford the same number, so the amounts go down. It's pushing the problem away while maintaining the illusion that it exists still there. It does, but you're already playing with small margins and small volumes.
Yeah, because comic books, when you go to the comic book store, you're not buying directly from Marvel, DC, Image, whatever. You're buying from your comic book shop who bought from the distributor.
Yeah.
So you're saying that Joe Schmo who goes into Midtown Comics will still see $3.99 books, just a lot less of them, and they might run out Wednesday at 5 p.m.
And they might not be the comics that Joe Schmo wants to read. They might
Sure.
be the ones that sell.
Which when I hear this means indie comics are fucked. Because those Marvel and those DC books will probably Batman Hush Tua will still be on stands for its weird cadence cycle that it's being released in. But a new book from like a Boom or an IDW. IDW is trying to do their Godzilla thing coming up. That's probably safe. But does then that would normally raise the waters for everything else to be able to be published? That probably won't do that.
Well, that was some of the stuff that Chris, we were talking with Chris Arendt maybe 3 weeks ago now, where you consolidate all of those things, right? And by consolidating the publication of all that, maybe you stay an independent, the same way that Image has Skybound, it has Wildstorm, it has like all these other
Energon
sub
and Ghost
publishers,
Machine, yeah.
right?
Well, Energon's
Because
part
of that, they all lump under Image that allows them to reach and attain certain volume, which means then yeah, you have your Boom, your Dark Horse stays as independent publishers, but they have to agree to form some kind of conglomerate to allow you to hit distribution thresholds.
Yeah, it's not that there's less slices of the pie; the pie is smaller.
Right.
Yeah.
Marco, you are that's already happening.
It is.
And it's interesting. So Devil's Due, that they're a publishing company, and also a couple others. They are working with Massive
Yes.
Publishing.
Yep.
And they are doing exactly what Marco just suggested, kind of working together to get the order numbers up to reach that place where they can be published by Lunar. That's the goal. And these indies are doing that in unison. And I like that there's already some ingenuity, I guess, coming from the space. We've got a couple super chats here. Atomic Hound dropping $9.99 on the thanks so much, Hound. If only Elon wasn't still pissed about one more day. Seriously though, take care of yourselves and family as this clown car continues to disregard all guardrails.
I think he'd probably be more upset at the Paul stuff. That seems like a cucking would make him more upset then.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Although, if Paul is Venom, he'd probably be into that, given that, he's going in to get his revenge. Though it's not quite the Nazi pipeline he wants.
Comics are dope with the 4.99 says good luck with this chat. Not touching with a 10-foot pole on my channel. Enough creeps in my comments as it is. Well, first of all, I'm sorry you have creeps in your comments, but this is YouTube. We've got creeps in our comments. I appreciate BJ what you do at Comics Are Dope. I love that channel. That's my favorite comics YouTube channel.
Same.
Over here, we have to do this. Like, we have to be educating our audience as to what is going on and having this conversation because I just think it's important to have.
It's our remit. Like, this is we talk about the trending news in comic books. Like, this is it.
Yeah.
This is what we do.
I was tempted to have a live Dow stock exchange ticker happening during while we were doing this, but I didn't want to do that. That
watching the Disney and Warner Brothers stock.
And then before we move past it, Dakota X Spiral Storm with $2 saying preach Cale preach. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Jeremy Kulo says, I work in U.S. manufacturing. There's currently record employment, and we have trouble staffing our shifts adequately now as is. The U.S. consumes far more than we could ever conceivably produce.
And then he follows up with, I can count the number of employees in my factory under age 30 on one hand. Gen Z is not going to be applying to work in all these mythical factories.
I love that, mythical factories. It's so true, though.
I do want to see like the Gen Z TikTok that's like my life in the day as a factory worker.
Woof. Think about the weird roller coaster of what Jeremy just said. I work in U.S. manufacturing. There's currently record employment, and if I'm reading that correctly, there's a crap ton of employees, but they can't staff the shift. They can't staff the shifts. But there's so much product that has to go out. They can't keep up.
And they can't meet the demand, which is why we import.
Yeah, because U.S. production isn't as big as other countries.
And it's also just the wages involved are that much more costly. So also presumably leading to cost increases for the end consumer.
Well, our workforce shifted, right? We went away from industry and factories and all that stuff. We stopped all that as our population continued to rise. So of course we need to look elsewhere for all of our materials and imports because the country's too big and there's too many of us, and we got rid of our workforce, and we did that in some ways on purpose. So it's a complicated situation. Where was the other? TFB TJ says, I noticed the price change months ago. I mostly buy digitally. The Absolute Series prices went from $5.50 to the range of $7.09 to $7.17. Where do you live, TJ?
Either UK or Canada with that kind of conversion.
That smells like
be cheaper for the UK.
Yeah, it smells like Canada to me.
That's rough. Damn. Well, I wanted to let the retailers have their say a little bit here because Bleeding Cool put together an article compiling a few reactions from the industry as to what's going on. And so the first one I wanted to read comes from one of the head honchos at Image Comics, Vice President Jim Valentino, who I think always has something interesting to say. So he quoted Bleeding Cool, one of their articles, and he said, quote, from Bleeding Cool, not a site I quote often, but there are some very excellent points herein. And adding, for all of you in the comics biz who voted for this disaster, I hope it's starting to sink in how much damage you've done to this industry. Larger companies like Marvel, DC, and Image will find a way, but this will most likely destroy smaller publishers and retailers, and your vote is to blame. Will we survive this? I think so, but expect prices to soar and a lot of good people to be hurt. Jim makes an excellent point, and it's a sad truth. A lot of the people who voted for this, let's just keep it to comics, on the comics end of things, are the ones who are going to actually suffer from this reality, be it a retailer, be it a smaller publisher, people who think, oh, this will be great for us. Our president's looking out for us. We're business. He's business. It's all good. It ain't fucking all good. And these people who are on the ground floor are going to suffer. If you are a dark horse, if you are a bull, if you are even like a distillery or something like that, distillery comics are $9.99. The fuck are we going to be paying?
$20 single issue.
Yeah,
for NFT comics.
Yeah.
Resell.
I guess we're already paying that for distillery books.
It's not,
It's
I mean,
going up.
it's not like we're manufacturing the graphics cards needed to run the blockchain for those NFTs either.
Barely host the website.
it's crazy.
Yeah,
But
it's a mess. It's a mess. And it's it won't affect me. Mindset, until it does.
Yeah, but that it's so short sighted. Like all these moves, obviously at this level, like have all encompassing effects. Like it's odd. It is bizarre to me every time that somebody doesn't have that thought.
um, Eddie D'Angelini, who runs the Santa Monica Comics Company, talked to Bleeding Cool and said, quote, I had tried to start this conversation with other retailers before the election, both in person and online. Many had a wait and see attitude, and some shockingly believe that tariffs are paid by other countries and not us.
Amazing.
I had and still have a more concerning interest in what may come because of my particular situation. My wife and I co owned Heidi Ho Comics in Santa Monica for 10 years, and that shop sadly closed in December of 23. We spent several months in 2024 working with a business advisor, building our plans to reopen a new shop in Santa Monica in 25 called Santa Monica Comics Company. We now fear that our business models will be inaccurate to start and maintain a successful business if price increases and sales slump. If the current administration refuses to back off on these tariffs, it seems inevitable that publishers will enact a cover price increase. This will quickly hurt retailers as customers buy less or decide to stop altogether. We may see sales slump across the board, and I fear that shops who can't or won't pivot may be faced with the decision to close. A few shops closing could be survivable for the industry, but there is a tipping point. This could result in the collapse of the direct market. I fear smaller publishers will be hit the hardest and the quickest. Many are already operating on razor thin margins, and the additional cost of tariffs could make their business models a losing venture.
Yeah, if it comes down to that retailer level, um, you have to be able to at this point now figure out ways to entice people with back issues, with other offerings. Like you're gonna have to diversify the business, and we talk about it consistently with regards to like they becoming hobby shops because you have to figure out a way to potentially offset some of those costs.
Yeah.
The increases to what was said in the article, people leaving comics, people dropping titles and volume because they have to make those people have to make life decisions for themselves as well.
I feel like that's why like a lot of comic shops have been like pivoting to like being hobby shops, like you said, with like trading cards and D&D. D&D, you could just do theater of the mind, which costs nothing, and just charge
Nah,
for
you see the cost of those books?
well the books itself.
Hefty.
But if you have them in the shop for use, then
They're gonna have to pair up with fucking model train enthusiasts and
those guys have
shipbuilders
money.
and
You know what they should pivot to selling fursuits. The furries got money.
sure.
Yeah.
Scott Green says people won't stop their hobbies easily. And that's very true. I think a lot of people will continue to read comics or whatever their hobby is. But I do agree that there's a tipping point, and I agree that there is a place where, a person says enough is enough. And whether that means that they leave comics altogether, whether that means that they drop books, which we
Mm,
discussed, whether that means that they pirate, right? Like
mm,
pirating will go up
yep.
as a result of this. To me, that's a guarantee. It probably already started to go up. As soon as tariffs were announced, people were like, oh, well, that gives me the freedom to do what I already want to do and pirate books. It's a bad look for the industry.
I also,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I also think it may not necessarily be up to the individual. The publishers may die, the shops may die. You know, it may not be up to you whether or not you leave the hobby. They may just go away.
We have people that have been in our chat talking about how like their nearest shop is 2 hours away.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
been a problem. I mean, since I've been in comics, and I'm from the Midwest, and you know, our massive comic book retailer Hastings went out of business, geez, in 2015, no, 2013, and hurt comics representation all the way up the Bible Belt.
Well, I mean, I guess if your shop is nearby, you could order your comics to be delivered. Oh wait, we might be privatizing the USPS now.
Oh yeah, I didn't hear that one.
Yeah, because that makes sense too, right, Marco?
Well,
Thanks to Jeremy Kulo, who joined the channel as a sidekick. Thank you so much, Jeremy. I want to see some pals heads in the chat. We've got a bunch of green names, as we do every week. And if you guys are good, we might even give away a few channel memberships here in a bit. We'll see about that. John Carlos, though, with the $9.99. Thanks, John. Says, so happy you guys are talking about this. It seems that most don't want to, and I get it, but that's how we got here in the first place. You know what? There are a lot of YouTube channels that won't talk about this. And BJ from Comics Are Dope admitted as much for his own channel earlier, and I respect the hell out of that. The admission of it and the reasoning being there are a lot of idiots. The last time we had a conversation about this, we had people in the chat saying, "Oh, you guys are overreacting. Wait and see. It's just a tactic, blah blah blah." Okay, but here we are.
he won't do it. He won't do it.
Which is cyclical. This dude does everything he says he's going to do. Like, why do people constantly think, well, it's just a negotiating tactic? It's not The Apprentice anymore.
To be fair, it was a negotiating tactic, and he did it.
Well, I mean, what's he negotiating with? They're strong arming him. You
doesn't
know,
matter.
like it's not very good.
Yeah.
But Marco's point is salient. It doesn't matter what the reasoning is. The fact is that it's a tactic that he is employing and he's doing it.
Right.
And that is it. We've got to get away from that mentality of like, oh, that's not going to happen. Well, okay, but let's say it does, right? Let's say you're a comic book shop owner. How do you plan for the next 6 months when you don't know what you are going to be paying for your main product in 1 month from now? That's brutal.
And that's how does that even work with solicits? And it being 3 months in advance. Are there
Probably won't get solicits anymore. You think they're going to be able to print previews?
Yeah,
that's
right.
true. That's true. Yeah.
They're not going to know how to even probably cost that out. Like what do you do when you don't know if next month the cover price is going to go up, the production cost is going to go up? Like you probably for the next couple months probably have to keep printing at the same amount before you can probably reconcile, oh shit, this is how much this ended up costing.
Cole says Canada taxes USA a 250% tariff on our dairy and lumber. Is it bad when we threaten the same? I don't want to hurt comics or customers, but I get why we're trying to negotiate hardball style. I don't know, dude. I'm not in the position of president, right? So far be it from me to understand the intricacies and all of that. However, Canada is like our biggest ally, right? And so I feel like there's probably a better way to negotiate than to hurt both populations even further. If what you're, I don't know the Canada side of the tariffs, but if what you're saying is accurate, right? Is it better for us to then say, okay, cool, we're going to hurt our people even more? Does that work? What kind of tactic is that?
Well, they got to stop sending fentanyl to our country, Sean.
Ah, yes. Canadians known for their fentanyl use.
Oh, and you know what? Apparently Trump is threatening a reciprocal 250% tariff on Canadian dairy and lumber items as well. So
250%.
he's going.
Yep.
Well,
He said, yeah,
I'm lactose intolerant, so this doesn't affect me. So I'm fine with it. That's how the American ideology works, right? Doesn't affect me.
that's right.
Sean's good. Sean's safe.
Hell yeah.
He might be safer in America for Sean after that.
I just feel like, it's really easy to say things like that when it's not you on the line. Hardball is great and it's wonderful, and everybody loves a guy who sticks to their guns and sticks it to the opposition and all that stuff. But that like rah machismo shit is how you end up in really bad spots. We don't need that. What we need is a guy, a person who goes in and wants to negotiate and wants to bring things down. Wants to actually help the American people, not make things harder on us. That doesn't add up. Doesn't make any sense. I don't want a guy going tit for tat, Cole. I don't know about you. I don't know your politics. I don't know you. I don't want a guy going tit for tat. Point blank.
We also need a guy who understands how the system works.
That would help.
And what the word tariff means.
That would help.
I mean, I'd argue that they do understand what it means and they're okay with prices going up and the everyman having issues. Yeah, because they're not paying it and they're the ones actually benefiting off of it. Because then they can make wages continue to be low, they can keep people poorer, and keep the rich people richer. So it is working by design for certain people. Cosmo, cut off your name here. Cosmo Theandric. I probably read that the wrong way. There's no spaces. I apologize. With the €6 super chats, and thanks for it being in euros. If eventually the tariffs go away, do you think prices would ever return to pre-tariffs? Seeing how when something rises, it ain't ever coming back down. You just answered your own question at the end there.
Yep.
If prices go up, that's just the way it's going to go up. If they can then make more money off of the same people paying for it, they're never going to drop prices.
Well, but also, again, assuming you switch production lines, you switch all of these pipelines for things, then switching back to another alternative, be it cheaper or not, will take time. It will take investment. It is not in the interest of the business to be able to do that, and so therefore, definitely keep your prices up because you're offsetting a lot at that point.
Well, but even still, the people in the suits are going to see that you paid it, and it doesn't matter that it went up.
Yeah.
And fuck you.
Yeah. As long as they can still print it at that price and have people buy it, then so be it. And if it kills the print market, then they can go all in on digital, which they completely own and they control completely.
And fuck you.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially that last part.
I really wanted to read this from Chris and Kelly, who own Retro Rocket Comics in Ontario. Just a quick note to subscribers and comic book enthusiasts. Most, if not all of the comics you read, are printed in Canada by Canadians. The Canadian printer of these books has graciously offered to cover the cost of tariffs being imposed by the US for 90 days. This is an attempt to reduce the burden on comic shop owners and retail customers during this time. Regardless of that fact, it looks like prices are set to increase in the coming weeks. This is news from the comic book industry, not a decision being made at the retail level. Unfortunately, in the event of this happening, we will have no choice but to make certain changes on the retail level in order to weather the storm. Starting with this week's ordering, we will be drastically reducing the number of extra shelf copies we get for weekly books. Most books, other than new #1 issues, will be by subscription only, which makes starting a subscription the only safe way to guarantee you get your books. It is now more important than ever to ensure you are keeping on top of your subscriptions. We apologize to everyone affected by these tariffs during this time, and we recognize that comic books are a luxury item. Hopefully, this situation resolves itself quickly, and we can all be here when the dust settles. That's scary.
Jaws on YouTube says, I go to Retro Rocket. Hi, Chris and Kelly.
Oh, cool.
Brad?
This is like 9/11 for comics for Sean. He might have to make a pull list at this point.
Bro, at a certain point, we might just be the pals.
We'd have to find some other shit to talk about.
Yeah.
It's wild because that means that a comic shop is also no longer the place for a passerby, right? I'm
Yep.
sure you make incremental dollars from that by having just having stock, right? And now you're gonna come in and be like, oh, all I see are number ones, all I see are maybe a number two because it hasn't sold because someone hasn't picked something up. And you go in and what do? You buy your trades. They become the entry points become different, and the continuity points become different.
Yeah, and of course, it won't just be number ones. You can guarantee you'll find additional copies of like Batman and Spider-Man, the big books. But when you can't walk in and there's no discoverability for a book like Department of Truth, which is an Image comic, right? When there's no discoverability for that, the sales of that book tank because only your subscribers are getting it. And let's be honest, a retail store for a book like Department of Truth probably has what, 5, 10 subscribers at best?
Sure.
How does a book like that stay afloat at that point?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're lucky,
Doesn't.
yeah, yeah.
Not to mention like the variance of it all. Probably less variance because there's less stock because they can't meet those numbers. Which
Or
then that kills off the white whales in a way.
well, or the alternative there being you have less normal covers because the white whales are a better investment. So you might end up having to force people to buy a $20 cover.
They come in on Thursday. They only have one cover left, and it's this $20 one.
Yeah.
You want it? No. Well, then you don't get to read the book.
Right.
There's gonna be like
Man.
fist fights in the stands of the Gooner variants. People fighting over them. There's only like 2 left.
I just started collecting New Gods physically. Are you kidding me with this shit?
This is a typical Cale move.
God damn it.
Doesn't work out for you. Happiness, Cale? No.
The powers that be said, Cale's buying comics. Yeah, let's get that shit up.
We
there.
gotta shut that shit down.
now.
Tariffs is yeah.
Unreal, dude. This is so bad. This is so fucking bad.
Yo, Sean, we got to go to Hydra Comics and record a fight when it breaks out.
I'm down. You want to partake?
Yeah,
Start-
you guys gotta go start a fight.
Start moshing, say, that's my copy, and just like just grab it and kind of streak your fingers across. It's mine now.
You and I can like fake fight and
Yo,
get
like-
everybody involved and start a fight at Hydra Comics. That'd be beautiful.
Just like
Throw the paper trades.
somebody's trying to get Turbo Man, you're left with Booster.
Fuck Booster.
That's what you're getting.
As a kid, I thought Booster was awesome, so I never understood that. But
Booster was sick. Comic Boom said, by the way, that's from the movie Jingle All the Way.
best Christmas
Comic
movie.
Boom says, I speculate that if tariffs lead to increased comic prices, the digital market may increase, since digital is less likely to be impacted since it does not require printing. Thank you for saying that, Comic Boom. I appreciate that you said that because it shifts us over to that portion of the conversation, and I have a very strong opinion about that. I do not believe that the price of digital comics will be cheaper. No, that is not going to happen.
It hasn't been mandate. It hasn't been the trend that we've followed. We've set a precedent. They've set an expectation, and they're maintaining that. Why would you decrease the cost just for the digital reader when you know that they'll pay the cover price the same way that a physical reader will?
I think the only thing, and we're going to be talking about it later with the changes to DC Infinite, that's probably the closest we'll see to something like that. Where the time between release physically and digitally and then it on Infinite or Unlimited maybe becomes shorter.
Even audience aside, like the creators gotta eat, you know?
What are we thinking about the worker now, Cal? Come on.
Listen, I've had one position this whole it's been 10 years. I've had one position this whole time.
I think that it's a little, not the Comic Book wasn't saying this, but it's a little naive to think that digital prices will be lower because think about it, right? Like DC and Marvel would love for you to spend more money on a physical copy. And if they say, oh, well, you could just buy it cheaper digitally, what they're really telling you is you don't have to pay that price. And so some amount of us won't. And that doesn't add up to good for Marvel and DC. The only way it adds up to good for Marvel and DC is if it's like Tyler said, you go to their app. But if it's not that, then why the hell would they want the price of digital to be lower?
And I think also there's something to be said about the fact that when you go to the app, uh, you can only subscribe. There is no outside of the trial. There is no free option for you to engage with it the same way that you would pirate. And so you're forced to then even exit that environment. You are forced to go and pirate, and not have the opportunity to engage with the company on even a free basis.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I think while I'm happy that digital exists for people who maybe their shops have closed, maybe they will close as a result of this, all that good stuff. I do think that not only will the price of digital not go down, I think it would be detrimental to the industry as a whole if we were to see that kind of shift.
The only way digital prices go down is if there are no print comics.
Right.
Sure.
And even
And
then,
even then, yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I think that's across the board. Prices never go down.
I mean, listen, though, Tevye Smolka says it's possible.
well,
So is
Tevye
President
says-
Marco. President Marco's a possibility too.
Under my rule, maybe.
would
Listen,
you lower the price, Marco, digitally?
Would I?
Yeah.
Probably would.
liar.
Yeah.
I said I probably would.
Let me check your other hand. Are your fingers crossed behind that?
Huh? Huh? What?
Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Huh? Huh? Huh?
Tilo says it depends on the amount of difference. I can see them being 50 cents cheaper, but not $1 cheaper. Yeah, like I think it's already like that, right? Like there's some sort of small discount you can get, but it's not going to be material on an individual book basis. Like you're not going to see $1, $2 off, nothing like that.
Yeah, it's 15% for a Comixology Unlimited subscriber. So
Mm.
yeah, a $4.99 comes out to like $4.20.
And that's, again, that's a subscriber.
Right.
If you're not a subscriber, I'm not, you still have to buy the full price.
Question, Sean, are you still a subscriber?
Yes.
Yeah, my favorite
He-
bit.
Wow.
My favorite.
Well,
Well, he
you
was
know
prepared
what?
for this. That's what he's doing.
There
This
you
is the long game, right? Like now you're gonna have to decide. Do I really want that other issue, whatever it might be, or do I just get it on Comixology Unlimited for 80 cents cheaper?
Man, at what point does Amazon start printing these comics because they have the factories?
Word. Hey, they could act. You wait, Tyler. That will never happen because that would be helpful.
Well, I don't think it would be helpful. I think the quality would be shit, and that's just more money in Bezos' pocket. But I'm
Well,
Well,
and,
yeah.
and heaven forbid Jeff Bezos do something useful.
Yeah, that was what I was getting at.
Yeah.
Was that if it could be helpful, but it's not that they just wouldn't want to do that. Cole says you can buy the first 6 issues of TMNT for $1.99 a pop right now digitally.
Yep.
You're probably paying $4 to $5.99 for physical backstock. Yeah, but again, you're talking about old comics. Whenever we're talking about comics, we're talking about weekly on the stands that week books. Yes, there are ways to get books that are older cheaper. We all know that. That's common sense. But somebody who is like me or like Marco or Tyler or Cale or like a lot of you who read comics every single week, we're who we're talking about right now. And it's not getting any cheaper for us, digitally or otherwise. Go ahead, Tyler.
No, I got nothing. I stopped myself.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the tariff situation is now pushed back to April. I think, what was it, April 2nd?
Yeah, the day after April Fool's Day, because April 1st would be too on the nose, I think.
I wish it was April 1st. I wish it was April 1st.
He'd be like, gotcha, we're in on the internet trend now. On Truth Social, this is our joke.
Oh, God. But I think, businesses, the comic book industry is looking at this as a right now situation. I'm sure in every boardroom, in every office space, in every Slack, amongst comic book, business owners and whatnot, they're having conversations about this. Creators are having conversations about this. I guarantee you there are creator-owned books that are on hold right now because of all the uncertainty, the lack of knowledge of what the landscape will be for the next year. A Rob V, for example, is going to be really hesitant to launch what he believes could be a strong creator-owned series in an uncertain market. It's more stable to do more DC work or Marvel work than it is to take a gamble on a creator-owned book.
It's more stable to do non-comics work too.
Well, yeah, of course.
Yep. Yeah. And there goes, was it the six finger?
Well, we just got Matt Fraction back, and he's going to go right back to TV.
Yeah. Actually, in the UK, the TV industry is flopping too. So for Rom, maybe not.
Better write the fuck out them DC books. He better figure out them New God spinoffs really fast.
Real quick.
Resurrection Man.
Light Ray #1 coming in fall. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why are you guys naming books that won't sell?
Because he got to get them
Exclusive
out.
to DC Infinite.
That's what the man wants to write.
He better figure out a really great Superman pitch really fast.
Dan Slott's on that one. Sorry.
Oh, all right. Well, what are you gonna do? Are there any lingering questions or thoughts that we haven't addressed as far as tariffs are concerned? Because there is a whole diamond aspect of this conversation that we've got to get into.
The comics industry is getting a 1-2 punch right now. This is just the first punch.
Exactly. Joseph Wolf says lowering the price of digital led to books growing in popularity. Comics don't pay attention to other markets at all. Yeah, but I think it's a very different situation. I think it's a very, very, very different situation. When you're talking about, traditional books, you're talking about one writer, the guy that wrote, Dune, Frank Herbert, he's one man. And with one typewriter or one computer or whatever, and then they get in there and they print the books and they make it happen. And that's fantastic. And millions of people have read Dune, and that's great, right? But in comics, you're talking about a writer. You're talking about a penciler. You might be talking about an inker. You're talking about a colorist. You're talking about an editor. You're talking about 20 pages a month. That's a completely different business model. You can't just replicate it.
Yeah. Of high detailed art on multiple levels.
Right. Yeah, exactly. You're lucky if if the cover of the book you bought has color, let alone there being any art on the interior. And if there is, you're paying a lot more for that.
Paper quality, maybe even.
Yeah. Art is expensive. Colored art is very expensive.
And heavy.
We're going to go back to newsprint.
Oof.
Letterer, yes, Dan. Thank you. I almost forgot Cale. Letterer's got to get paid too.
Boy, do they gotta get paid.
Looking out for the little guy.
Fucking, they got Clayton Cowles in chains in a basement somewhere working his ass off because he's got a family upstairs to feed. And the only way he can do that is to work on Batman and Wonder Woman all day, every day.
And
Here's 60 titles of Batman and Wonder Woman all day, every day.
Here's hoping he's not Canadian. I don't know where he's from.
His price is going up.
Thank you to the over 115 people that are here hanging out with us for this important conversation. I really love when you guys show up for these big picture talks. Make sure you smash the like button. We are going to give away some channel memberships here in a few minutes because you guys have been so great. We're an hour into this chat, and you guys are here for it, which I love so much. So you guys do right by us. We will do right by you. We are going to start talking about the diamond side of this thing in just a moment. But before we do that, I do want to shout out our patrons real quick. Patreon.com/thecomicspals is the best way to support the show. With tariffs in effect, I mean, my goodness, we've got to buy comics to talk about them every week. And so your support goes a long way to keeping our lights on. Because damn it, I will buy Hush Tua before I pay a fucking light bill. You're damn right. So we need your help.
How are you going to read it in the dark?
I got glasses, dude. I'll wait till it's light out.
Said, how are you gonna read in the dark? I got glasses.
Yeah.
But listen, another aspect of that, y'all are funding us. We might have to start telling you what's happening in these comics.
Just like all the other YouTube channels.
We might have to become fucking Comics Explained to this motherfucker and just start reading the books live.
That's what I'm saying.
Hey,
And like instead of being piracy, it'll be an actual service.
Quite frankly, Cale, the sad reality is that if we did that, we'd probably have more viewers. People love that shit. Who buy a comic? No, I could just listen to Rob read the comic and put every panel on the page on the screen so you can see it. Why spend
Listen,
$3.99 then?
we'll act
Listen,
it
if
out
y'all,
though.
if y'all pay us, we'll talk about it.
Kale's been trying to do a radio show, like a radio thrilling adventure
Drama.
hour type thing. Yeah. So Kale's fine with this.
Shameful, shameful. But I do want to shout out the patrons who make this all possible. So special shout out to our Pals vs. Legends, Thunderstruck Rebecca Alejandro, the Hound of Justice, Atomic Hound, Starcross Catherine Stars, the Red Spiral, Spiral Storm, Adam and Bernie the Best Boy, the Spear of Judgment, Jay's Jumble, Matthew Malice Price. And thank you to Pals vs. members, the Night Stalker, Harris Stajinsky, Brian Demolisher Del Pozo, Kefis the Incorruptible, Momentum Mike Elliott, Dan the Truth Trudeau, Marley Manastorm, Slow Flow Dammer, and Christian Uncaged, always laughing. The Spear of Justice, Izzy Spears, The Great Destroyer, Hyper Viper 89, Robert Runback Cashback, Pete the Dreamweaver Collins, James Just Jamming Jones, Paul Powerhouse Smith, Andrew the Galaxian Smith, Neon Knight the Cosmic Avenger, Matthew the Shade Cosmo, BJ Kicks, and the Living Blade Bosrin Deer. If you didn't hear your name, it is impending. You gotta wait until later on in the show to hear that. If you want your own name, patreon.com/thecomicspals is the only way to do that. Join the Palsverse to get a nickname and a shout out and an origin. We will be bringing a new one to you guys a little bit later. But I made a promise. I will deliver now on said promise of giving away 5 channel memberships for you guys being so amazing to us. So here we go. Marco, please read these off as they come out.
Roger Hernandez, Lavonte Jackson, Crocodile Trannon, Kyutsu, and Stepan.
Step on me.
Hey yo,
Love
Hey yo, hey yo.
yo.
Pause. Pause.
Not me. You know.
I
Who's in
beg your
royal me.
pardon.
What did I just hear?
Actually worked this time.
It didn't work. I didn't even hear it. I think it was Dr. Umar's voice, but I didn't even know
I
what
was
he
just
said.
saying, I beg your pardon. That's whenever you say something pause worthy. Now I got a button for it.
All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. A lot of lurkers that won.
Yeah,
today. So
right.
congratulations to you guys. Hopefully that brings you out of lurk, at least to share a pal set, because you guys have access to that now. You have access to early access to videos. We just dropped a new one yesterday, so hopefully you guys will check that stuff out.
A lot of people gonna be going back to old comics.
Hey, at least there is all that backlog. Cole was talking about you can get old comics for so cheap. Check out a dollar bin.
Yep.
We can kill the comics industry right now, and you would still not be able to read all the comics that existed in your life.
No one can.
1000%.
Probably some truth to that, yeah.
All right. Let's shift gears a little bit because Diamond's having a rough one. This year has not started out the way that I think Diamond would have liked, and it is hurting everybody. Diamond owns a lot of companies, a lot of people, a lot of publishers. Bleeding Cool, they've been all over it since Diamond announced their bankruptcy, and they have accumulated and broken down all of the individual payments that are owed by Diamond. So just a couple of like the individual people that Diamond owes. They owe author Adam Novak $1,500. They owe a horror artist named Adrian Aguilar $41. Why even include that? Artist Giovanni Zapata Cabrera is owed $1,200. So they owe people, individual people, sums of money. But then when you get into publishers, Boom Entertainment is owed $799,000.
Oof.
Damn. And they oh no, we're not that's how you're not defaulting on it, right? Damn.
That's a lot. That makes that guy's $41 look like nothing.
Right.
But I like how it's like $41. Like somebody could just go out there and be like, "Here, dude."
I bet you Diamond put out a like Rich Johnson put out a distress call, be like, "Hey, if anyone, if Diamond owes anyone money, please reach out to me." And this guy's been waiting for his moment. He's like, "These guys owe me fucking $41. I'm gonna air the shit out right now."
If I'm Steve Jeppy, I'm just gonna pull up on that guy and be like, "Look, dude, just open the wallet up, right? Look, here you go. 20, 41. Here you go, bro. Just get the fuck off my back. Can you stop going to Rich Johnson and Bleeding Cool? Can you leave me out of it, please?"
Yeah, Steve Jeppy could just not get Five Guys today.
Oh, shit.
Damn.
Oh my goodness. So they owe Boom almost $1 million, right? They owe Dynamic Forces $150,000. They owe so many different people. Lunar is owed $496,000 apparently. Titan Publishing is owed over $300,000. So they've just got this list of companies that they owe that is so long, tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars for individual companies. Compiled that we're looking at well over $1 million in debt to publishers. How are they ever going to collect the publishers? That is,
Sean, you said Boom Entertainment.
Probably the parent company.
yeah.
I'm looking at Boom
Absolutely.
Entertainment, and it's a gambling company. Boom Studios, still Boom Studios. So I'm curious to see if that's just.
It could have
Is
been
their
an
parent
error on
company,
Rich's
yeah.
part. Maybe he wrote entertainment instead of studios, but unless Steve Jeppy's got a gambling habit.
That's what I was
we don't
thinking for
know
a second.
about.
Yeah.
But that's a bad look, and Diamond is going to have to figure out how they are going to pay all this debt off, right? And so Diamond has now found some ways of earning money, of making money that they can then pay to these companies that they owe. And so, one of the things that they've decided to do is reach out to comic book stores that owe them and try to collect. Real quick, we've talked about how Diamond has performed the role of bank in the past for publisher or for retailers. They've given them grace as to, oh, you know what, you owe us X amount of money. Why don't you wait on that and you can pay us when you are caught up or whatever. And it's tough to get caught up as a retailer, so a lot of those debts just accumulate. Diamond forgets about it, and they never discuss it. But now Diamond has to get money, so they're coming knocking for everybody who owes them at a critical point of uncertainty at which retailers don't even know how much cash they're going to have on hand in a few months. So they are reaching out to comic book stores and demanding what they are owed. And I don't know how many of them are going to be able to pay.
Dude, those must be the nerdiest enforcers to like come knocking at the door with a bat or some shit, you know? Little nasally voice, be like, "You owe me money."
They just lift up their shirt and there's a Batman utility belt under there.
Yeah. Pay or else.
I mean, but you're right, Sean. This is gonna like kill some comic shops.
I'm gonna kill most comic shops if they owe Diamond.
Yeah.
And especially owe Diamond that much.
Yeah, in a world where the tariffs are oncoming too, like
Mhm.
it's literally like kneecapping them. And if they
Literally and physically.
yeah, well, yeah.
Physically and metaphorically.
Yeah. And like if they were already in dire straits to the point where they needed to, you know, let Diamond kind of give them some time or whatever, or do that, that means they're probably not in a place to be able to even pay that off. Like Diamond's bankrupt, they're trying to find a way not to pay off their debts. Of course, the people that have debts to them are also trying to find a way to not pay off that. It's just a whole bunch of people not having money.
Passing the buck. Absolutely.
Well,
And
not passing the buck, as it were.
sure.
Yeah.
Right.
We're gonna see some
Um,
Kickstarters for these shops soon.
Imagine Diamond just opens up a Kickstarter. Yeah, we owe money, bro. Like, help.
oh, I said there were 3 things Diamond was doing to try and make money in this time. It's not Kickstarter, but one of them is really funny to me. So one of them is Diamond is selling 2 retailers, by the way, the same people that
Oh,
they're
here we
trying
go.
to strong arm to get them to pay off. They're selling 2 retailers, one of 100 Image Comics variants for $10 or less a pop through their website or whatever system they use to sell to retailers. This is crazy. So you can see the whole list. Bleedingcool.com has the article. Diamond blowing out one of 100 Image Comics variants for $10 a pop. You can see the whole list right here. There are some incredible covers on here. Ghost Machine #1, one of 100 is on here. Void Rivals, one of 100 is on here. You've got the Rook Exodus #5, one of 100. That one's really nice. The Moon is Following Us, one of 100. They have a lot of stuff that if it was at your shop for sale, you would want. And so here's the scheme. Here's the scheme if you don't understand how comics work. Diamond says, we need you to pay up, but you don't have the money. So here's how we're going to help you pay us. We're going to sell you the Ghost Machine one of 100 variant for $10. You're going to sell that same variant for, I don't know, $150. You're going to take that 150 and you're going to pay us what you owe us.
This is Steiner math.
But if you're unsure of how variants play a part in this industry, that is one of the ways.
Like, I am a consumer. So if I'm one of the guys hops into the comic shop, would I know this? I'd be like, no, you got that for $10. Like,
I mean, you, Diamond sure hoping you don't. Like,
That blew me away, dude. I don't know. That really blew me away.
that really is scraping the bottom of the barrel of what they have. That's literally finding, hey, what stock do we have extra of?
Right.
Liquidate it.
Yeah.
that's it. Yeah, it's. I mean, they're gonna be they're gonna be selling the light fixtures next. Like,
That's something Marco would buy. Yeah.
No. My local Sam Ash went out of business, and you can put in requests to buy different things. They had literally a light fixture that goes on the wall, Sam Ash, and I put in a bid for it, and I didn't win it, but they were selling everything, fucking the nails, dude.
yeah,
Did you go to those New York subway auctions, those stores?
I want to go to them.
Yeah,
I want to go to them. I want to go to that. I want like the 7, the 7 station.
I want one of
whatever
those
on my thing.
green globes that are on the poles. on the
Yeah,
outside,
that'd be cool.
I want the rag sign, you guys, the fake ass Gap that they used to have on the subway stations, the store that sold like clothing. Do you remember that?
The rag.
You don't remember rag? RAG, just like Gap?
No, was it like when you're past the turnstile in the bigger subway stations where they have shops?
Yeah.
Where it's like, here's an ugly prom dress.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
yeah.
That type of shit. It was a fake ass Gap called Rag. I want that sign that says Rag.
I didn't even know New York had those.
Yeah, I don't know who owns
I
that.
just
is the
never hit
issue,
those.
yeah. Like there used to be a Kmart in the Union Square subway.
What?
It would be connected outside, but
Oh,
the
sure.
yeah, the entrance would be directly into the subway.
At least that's a legitimate business. Fucking Rag.
Sure.
Matt Fisher with the $4.99 says, "Good morning, Cale and company. Until
Let's
Sean
go.
turns heel, make mine the Comics Pals." Well, contrary to what some people believe, I will never turn heel. I am a face for life. Thank you, Matt Fisher.
How much you paying? I'll turn heel if anybody's
Yeah.
interested.
Cal's
Would
already a
you know you're
tweener at this
sold?
point.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. We'll
Why
talk to
not?
The Rock. Comics Are Dope says, "So yes, this is going to hurt shops. But when do we hold the direct market responsible for running their businesses like a teenage girl with daddy's credit card?"
So I think that some of the issue there is who is the direct market, right? Like, who are we holding responsible? You know, if we're looking at Diamond, we keep throwing around Steve Jeppy, and obviously I think there's a degree of responsibility there, but there's going to be quite a few people also behind the Diamond leadership.
I get. Go ahead, Tyler.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like a trickle down of just mess. You know, the shit is trickling downstream. It's just like if it's being mismanaged from the distribution level, of course it's going to be mismanaged from the retailer level because it can be. If somebody's gonna be like, "Don't worry, you don't have to pay me off," I'll probably be like, "Yeah, sure, okay."
Yeah, like I hesitate and I push back on that idea of, like a lot of people shit on Diamond for this, and I get it, but the retailers wouldn't have been able to survive. If a retailer needs Diamond to waive off their debt, that means that if they had to pay that debt, they probably couldn't function. And so what's worse? Is it better for Diamond to kill off one of their sources of income? That, like, think about what that means, right? Diamond is allowing that retailer to stay in business, but that retailer staying in business allows Diamond to stay in business because they have another retailer to ship to. It's very symbiotic. I don't think you can look at it as simply as, oh, Diamond should never have allowed that. They should have let that retailer fail. They'd be letting themselves fail.
Right. It's a sale. It's a point of sale.
The
Yeah.
industry runs on such thin margins that it's it's like one of those houses on the beach in the Outer Banks that it's like on those sticks and poles, and as soon as that tide
Yeah.
comes in that's too strong, that house is crumbling down.
But also, when the direct market started, Diamond wasn't the only uh distributor on the block. The direct market was made of 7 or 8 different branches, and Diamond was the one that survived.
And survived and became the monopoly that it is. Not like when I look at the history, I don't see Diamond as a hungry business just eating up all of its competition because it wanted to be the number one honcho. I see Diamond taking over warehouses and distributors to perform the function of distribution because the industry was collapsing and there was no one to distribute. Go back, do your research. Look at what happened with when Marvel took over Heroes World distributors. Look at what happened when Marvel took distribution into their own hands. This situation started way before Diamond decided to become the only distributor in town.
BJ says, comics are dope. Says, I mean, the comic shops should be responsible. I have to balance a budget as a business owner. It's accounting 101. Cole follows that up with continuing to prop up failing businesses just to maintain your own failing business and hope you both come out the other side. Yikes.
But n- but to that, like, yes, you have to balance your own business, but if the balancing of the business, if the numbers point to you have to close or you remain open and take a loan or whatever the agreement is, you have to make that call. And I don't fault the retailer, the shop, for deciding I want to stay open. I'm servicing people.
Sometimes being in the right is still running the business.
Yeah.
Sorry. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But the decision should have been made then years ago. Shit, this didn't work out.
And to be honest, a lot of comic book shops are not accounting 101 people. Like the people they're people who are passionate
Fans.
and they wanted to open up a comic shop, and this becomes a learning experience for a lot of these shops. And sometimes it's you swim or drown.
That's a heavy learning
It
experience.
is, yeah.
Yeah, BJ said accounting 101. Well, these people didn't take accounting 101. They don't know accounting 101. They know comics, and that's all they know. And I think it's really easy to sit on this side of things and say who should have done what. But what you don't understand is that idea, that very idea, if you go back to the 90s, could result in there just not being a comics industry anymore. There's no digital to fall back on. There is no other method. There is only direct market distribution. And what you are saying is that you want those retailers to have gone away. Okay, but then there's just no industry at all. Is that better? Is it better if the comic shop is something that you can only find in mega cities or not at all?
I mean, no, but like, look at where we are now. Like, it's crumbling
But it's here.
for now.
But it could have been gone a long time ago. Wouldn't it? Isn't it better that we've been here?
I guess what I'm saying is like, the we could they could have taken that time to strengthen it. Like if it's been on life support like this for so long, like maybe it's really just not a viable business.
Yeah, is it really
Maybe it's
living?
really not a viable industry.
I don't know. I
I
think
look, and I'm saying, obviously, I'm saying that from a place of I love comics. My life is comics, but this shit's expensive.
If it's one of those things, or maybe it should have died so something else can rise out of the ashes of it and have some evolution, possibly. But it does feel like it's been on life support for a good amount of time.
yeah. I mean, people have been saying the comics industry has been on life support for literally decades before we were born, and so that argument never really holds any water with me. Um, I just feel like hindsight is 2020, and it's really easy to say in 2025 what should have been done in 1995. But go ahead.
Well, I was just say to that point, right? Like, if you pose the question to 2025 comics pals, what should be done? 2030 comics pals might have that hindsight, might have that knowledge.
Right, because then it would already have happened. But sitting here today, it's like, I don't know, man. I would rather there have been a comics industry than not. Aaron 007 says maybe the direct market needs to be like the old newsstand model. Return what you don't sell. All this credit isn't going to work in this industry. No.
I, it's not books being returnable is not up to the direct market. Like it's that the distributor decides that. Comic shops can't just be like, I'm just going to return stuff.
The distributor doesn't decide that. The publishers decide.
Sure, but like what I'm trying to say is it's not the retailer who makes that call.
Yeah, they would love returnability, but we're never going back to that world. The point of the direct market was to get away from returnability, because what you don't know is that DC Comics was losing 50% in some instances of their cash to returns. So they would sell all these books to newsstands, and the newsstands would say, okay, we only sold 50% of our stock. We're going to rip the cover off of what we didn't sell, send it back to DC, and get our money back. What type of business is that?
Dude, when I worked at Barnes and Noble, I worked in newsstand as, for comics, and I had to do returnability. It was the worst thing ever. I felt like I was shooting Old Yeller in the back. We didn't rip the covers off, but we had to use a Sharpie to like just draw an X on the cover. And it was just like, as a comic book collector, it's like, this feels like I'm working at a vet clinic and I have to behead a rabid cat, it was rough. That's what they do.
Yeah, this is an optimization that's already been made. We can't reverse it.
Yeah, publishers don't want that at all.
I also like some of the points Chad is making. Steve Canaris says the industry isn't only floppies. The medium is bigger than ever. The industry is bigger than ever. And we also had the point from Dan, who said it's a viable industry. It just needs a massive shakeup to correct decades of bad decisions. People don't want change until they have to. And finally, Style So Serious says 1 billion in IP. It's viable.
The IP
Where is it?
side of it, yeah, the IP
It-
side of it is almost separate from the comic book publishing side of it at this point.
I got $1 billion in ideas too. What's like?
Well, the comics industry is a $1 billion industry. That's
Sure,
not
yeah.
that's not up for debate. It is a fact. Like they've made they've made over $1 billion in sales over the last few years.
What I'm saying is the idea of IP though can be separate from the comic book publishing side of things. Superman will exist without comic books being published.
Yeah, but I don't think I guess I just don't think that's what Styles was talking about. But yes, of course. Carson K says if it wasn't on life support, I don't think there would be as many collections as there are now. During the comic investment boom of the 90s, there were few trades and hardly any hardcovers.
Yeah, but they brought those in to boost sales.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a help to the industry.
And back then there were also so many readers of floppies, so the volume is also offset, right? Like now, uh, I mean, I don't know to what degree on a monthly basis you're selling more floppies than you are the hardcovers, than you are your absolute editions, all that kind of stuff. But the revenue drivers are likely going to be tied to volume, and that's in the floppy. Like that's probably where the industry changes. It doesn't fall. It decides whether or not it keeps the floppy.
And indie comics were doing trades and collections even before the 90s. So I think even without that, we might have gotten there eventually. It's hard to talk in ifs because that's just not what happened. But with the way the book market works, we probably would have gotten there at some point.
Last Young Renegade says the more sustainable model would be to float the singles in the direct market with trade and hardcover sales in the book market. Moving to Penguin Random House and marketing could enable that. My dude, the Diamond was floating full retailers. Like, I don't know that's what we need to be doing.
You can't just float singles. Like, that's a whole separate, that's the direct market.
Right? Yeah.
Matt Fisher with the 4.99 says, "I'm going to push back on that. If floppies go, we don't exist. They are integral, 100%.
You as a
Anybody who doesn't
person,
get that just doesn't. They don't pay attention to the industry. They don't. They're not into it in that way. But that's a fact.
I'm watching floppies get removed, and then Matt Fisher just gets raptured. Like he just doesn't exist.
Yeah, Sean. We watched
Yeah.
Sean float away.
Matt Fisher is just like a pair of cargo shorts on the sidewalk at this point.
Koitsu says the industry is thriving. The problem lies between the low prices and high distribution costs on an outdated business model. It's tough, man, because that's an outdated business model that the fan seems to want, right? Like, how do you work around that? How do you work around the idea that the fan wants the floppy?
Hmm.
That's it's the collection aspect of comics and the immediacy of it, and the ritual of it. There's too much involved in the hobby to get rid of that. That gets rid of the hobby for a lot of people.
You don't want to collect trade paperbacks?
What am I, the fucking beast when I have a library with ladders in my
I
castle? I would love that.
That was my dream.
That was my dream too. Yeah.
I guess, like, does collectability just go up a level then?
So you're saying if floppies go away and then people can't collect floppies, do they just then pivot to collecting trades?
You lose volume, but you
I don't think they
maintain
do.
the mindset.
I think it's just different people, different types of collectors.
Trades don't have collectability in that same way. Go ahead, Gil.
I was gonna say, ask Sean.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. I certainly don't represent every reader, but I can say that I buy comics to read them physically, and I enjoy the weekly grind of it, so to speak. And when you're talking about collectability, they don't print a whole bunch of trades that have like exclusive covers or anything like that. And even if they did, I'm not sure how much people would care. The collectability aspect of comics is it skip to me it skips trades. It goes from floppy to omnibus.
Same.
Oh, interesting.
Trades are a give that I gift to people if I want them to try something. Me personally, I'm collecting deluxe hardcovers or omnibuy.
Matt
Exactly.
Fisher with the 199 says, "How did you know I'm wearing cargo shorts?"
What
You're
other?
a listener of this show. Come on,
I was gonna say, how else? Where else are you gonna put all those super chats? You need those pockets.
for real.
Uncaged said, I love this. Uncaged said, "This is my last stand. I used to have cash, tapes, CDs, VHS. I want to own something. Post apocalypse, it will be old man Uncaged reading comics to children. Let's fucking go."
Man, I like the idea of old man uncaged. It's very old man Hawkeye, old man Logan. He's
That
reading into
sounds
a
sick.
Hulk
I want to write
child.
that story.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. Far be it from us, the comics pals, to have the answer, but it's tough because everything that gets brought up is like, well, that's going to cause this, or no one's going to like that, or whatever. It's like, where do you find the solution? I still don't know.
Are comics fans to blame for the state of the comic industry? Oh,
Yes.
Watch that now if you're a subscriber.
We definitely can't fix the industry.
That subscriber video is out now, and it is pretty long actually.
We might actually have some solutions though, and we're going to get to those in just a moment. But before we do, there was the third prong of how Diamond plans to sort of recoup their money and what they need to do, and that is an auction. That is an auction. They have produced, Diamond has bankruptcy papers that Bleeding Cool was able to acquire that talk about the auction and what is going to be up for auction and things like that. And Bleeding Cool has it, and that's great. Rich Johnson, good for him. But you know what? We have it too. We have it too because one of our intrepid pals was able to
Incredible.
acquire for themselves a piece of this document, and Marco has it.
Is that sleeved in one of those magazine sleeves?
it is. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
I'm gonna get this. Oh damn! I took it out of the thing. It's
Oh.
probably like a 9.6 now.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah, you can. I wonder if you can get that CGC graded.
I was actually talking to the shop owner. Shout out to Anyone Comics.
Oh,
they-
bless.
Trios.
Man.
yeah, actually, the second owner was there, Tom.
Oh.
I got a chance to meet him. We were chatting for a little bit, and he's like, "You should grade that." I'm like, my dude, I'm thinking about it. A piece of comic book history, folks, right here in my hands.
That you spent variant cover price for.
Did you actually end up paying for it?
Yeah, and it was so funny because I messaged the shop ahead of time, and it was
Yeah.
Demetrius who responded. But I guess Tom wasn't in the loop, and so I arrived. I'm like, "Hey, I wanted to know if you guys still had that thing." I sent a message to hold it. He's like, "Oh, sorry, what?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm looking for the Diamond Comics issue." He's like, "Sorry, what do you?" Oh, he's like, "Wait a second, I think I know what you're talking about."
Previews?
We walk over to the stand. He's like, "This thing?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "You want to buy this thing?" I'm like, "Yeah, dude." He's like, "I got the cash." He's like, "All right, that'll be $20."
He was unaware of
$20.
Oh, I know. He was unaware of Demetrios's game.
Yeah.
Incredible.
First of all, how the fuck did they come up with that price?
Hey man, I don't care.
Yeah, because in the Marco sent us a screenshot of the conversation, and Marco said, "Listen, I'll Venmo you right now."
I'll save it. Save
You
it. I'm
didn't,
picking
you
it
didn't
up
haggle
tomorrow.
that price at all either. You're just like, sure.
It's cover price, dude. I pay cover price. I'm a good shopper.
Sure.
Listen, that's gonna be in a museum someday. That's
And you know what? I have a copy of it.
right.
That $20 went right the fuck to Diamond.
Marco, do you know if that's the original or is that one of the reprints?
I thought about it. I bought it. I walked out of the store. Went, how do I know this isn't photocopied?
Is there like there's an actuary
it's-
stamp it or something? Or
There's folding to it, so I presume it was in a letter, right? You could obviously sure you can go through the effort to fake that, I guess. But I trust Anyone Comics
Sure.
in Brooklyn. Go visit it. Everyone Comics, the second shop in Long Island City in Queens. Go visit it. Very good people. Very good selection of books. Go support your local comic shop.
What a get! You guys remember that place opened when I left Brooklyn?
Dude,
Oh.
yes. Actually, they moved around the corner. They're not at that same spot.
Yeah,
They had a couple break-ins, I think, right? Yeah.
Yeah. No, that was at everyone in Long Island City. Anyone just moved over, I think, got expensive.
Ben Loudly with the 5 spot. Floppies aren't going anywhere. They're like vinyl records to the music industry. LCSs, however, will eventually disappear. It's interesting, right? Because in order to consume music, you don't have to listen to vinyl, and largely people who listen to music have passed vinyl by, and so vinyl became a niche thing that people enjoy in the comfort of their home, but it's unlikely to be the primary way even that person listens to music. Whereas there are a lot of people, 90% of people who engage with comics in the direct market sense are engaging with the industry through floppies. And so it's a tough comparison, right? I don't know when the LCS dies, if ever, or how that shifts and changes. But as long as floppies exist, there will need to be an LCS to facilitate them. I don't see how floppies can be sustained without an LCS.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they
Same with
can.
record stores making a comeback.
Yeah. Kingdom of Nerds became a 14-month member of the Comics Pals channel membership says, "Do you think Dark Horse and IDW will fold?" IDW, man, I don't know. I don't really like to talk badly about what's going on over there, but it's not looking great.
Hey, they got a new logo.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Spend some good money on that, huh?
And they had to have the fucking owner of the company design it because they
Yeah.
couldn't hire a graphic designer to take care of that.
So no, Marco, they did not spend good money on it. It was
No, true.
free labor,
And
old salaried
uh,
labor.
and they renewed a couple weeks back all the Toho stuff. That partnership's through 2029 now, so that they spent money on.
Oh yeah.
Surely.
I think I don't know if they fold, but I think remember what Chris Arant was talking about, right? Where they might have to team up or something similar like that.
yeah,
But that's on a distribution level, not on a publisher level. Like, I don't want to speak ill. I don't believe that they will. It's a comic company. I'm sure they'll find a way to make it through, but um, it will be difficult. I can only imagine downsizing. I can only imagine ways to make up quick cash.
Well, there are possible solutions. It's not all doom and gloom. And Adam Freeman has some answers. This piece comes out of Comics Pro. It's the last bit of Comics Pro that we're probably going to end up talking about here until next year. But Adam Freeman made a presentation and he talked about, some of the solutions that are possible. A little bit of background on Adam. Adam Freeman uh, was a retailer, Brand New World Comics. He got an Eisner in 2008, the Spirit of the Retailer Award. And so he's bounced around and had different jobs within the industry. Um, and so he presented and he said the following. The thing about building a 30-plus year career in selling, marketing, and producing comics and graphic novels is that not a whole lot shocks you. When you were around for Diamond gobbling up comics distribution and interacted with them from all sides with making lifelong friends on staff, when the fall comes, the reasons are not a surprise. When one of the most ambitious and capable couples you've ever met step in to build when others are crumbling, it doesn't even get a shoulder shrug. When one of the largest publishing and distribution companies in the history of man steps in to grab a piece of our industry, you wonder why it didn't happen sooner. And that's not even counting the dark stalking horse waiting in the wings. Do you know what surprised me? This graph. And so he presented a graph that shows something called a fan confidence rating. Um, and he explains how they got to that, and I'll talk about it in a moment. But what it essentially shows um, is that fan confidence in the industry, and they measure that by subscriptions, they measure that by several factors, has gone up since 2023. From February 2023 to January of 2025, fan confidence in the industry has risen, which is a positive sign. And here's why. This line graph represents the fan confidence rating, a measure that looks at pre orders and subscriptions in the average store for single issue comics for the last 24 months. We have built this through relationship with comic shops, point of sale systems, the data of over 200 stores, 24,000 plus consumers, and a whopping 500,000 active subscriptions. And I've never seen anything like it. We've seen spikes, some are even bigger than this, and we've seen trends, but this sort of steady growth over a 2-year period when all around us was chaos and the only voices getting attention were doom and gloom, not in my memory. Pouring fuel on this fire is the wake that is being caused by Diamond's collapse. Like any star that big, when it fails, it takes down a lot of planets with it. Publishers who were dependent on direct market sales without enough cash reserves or plans for this when the tea leaves became neon signs are being forced to make some pretty tough decisions. Some are closing their doors, some are refocusing on direct product lines, and some are just laying folks off and hoping for the best. But the smart ones see the opportunity. An increasing demand happening during a once in a decade disruption, leading to lower available publishing and distribution volume. Time to build. It's time to make new alliances. Time to build new infrastructure. It's time to create out of destruction. Enough metaphor, Adam. What should I be doing right now? Okay, fine. Let's focus on 5 points that any publisher should be leaning into. He goes on to list out 5 different strategies that the industry needs to employ. I won't read the entirety of it because it is quite a bit, but I do want to read a little bit of each point. Refocus on quality. We all got caught up on SKUs there for a minute, and who could blame us? Start a rumor about media rights and build a dozen covers, knowing that the rest of that series was dead on arrival anyway. Doesn't matter. Let's print some money, but it did matter. All those SKUs filled up those store shelves, made the retailers' lives harder, drove up the prices for printing, and in the end was one of the downfalls of Diamond. Distributing small press is a viable business, but not when each issue has a dozen covers. At Prana, we had a client that we sold several hundred of thousands of exclusive covers for in 1 year. The year before they went bankrupt. The answer is simple. Do less of better.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think and not for nothing, I think that's something we've said for a while, having, this is just the example off the top of my head, but DC having 52 titles on the stands, after the new 52 was like, but what about everything else? And where's the quality and what's there?
So I was curious at looking at the graph because the one of the lowest valleys there is December 2023. That's the biggest discrepancy from anywhere. And I looked at that, and that was when Fall of X was happening. No Absolute, no Ultimate didn't start yet. And
Wow.
Superman was like number what? Superman was below all Marvel books until 24 on the list. So that was it. DC wasn't really putting out quality. That's where we were kind of bum on it. Gang War was happening, so I can see why there was a quality issue there.
This would have been just before All In too.
Yeah.
Be early. It'd be 2024 would have been
that no man's land between Night Terrors and All In.
Yep. This is probably right before Beast War. What was it? The
Beast World.
Beast World.
That's probably
Beast
right in
World,
the middle of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Wow.
I mean, Batman number 428 Facsimile edition was at 18 on the charts that month. A Facsimile edition. It's wild. So I think that really does speak to quality for sure.
I think it speaks to quality, and I also think it speaks to I think what Adam is saying about getting rid of all these additional SKUs is something that the industry really needs to look at. It really, really does. We see it come up at these kinds of retailer summits and things like that, but there has to be a commitment on the publisher side of things to stop printing fucking dozen variants for books that aren't even good. Like if you've got like the Batman 158 or whatever that's coming out with Jim Lee and Jeff Loeb, that should have a whole bunch of variants. I'm cool with that because they're going to sell, that book's going to sell. It makes sense. But when you're talking about like a random issue of, I don't know, any book,
Any Dynamite book, why does
Sure.
it need 26 variant covers? And that's not even speaking to the quality of any given Dynamite book. Why would it need 26 covers?
I mean, you saw that Vampirella cover, the cosplay cover that we saw this past Palace Polls.
So we need one variant cover.
Only
But-
no more variants, just Gooner covers. They're standard and Gooner. That's how we should do it.
They've sold for decades.
it's a viable strategy. But someone could say, "Oh, well, they sell." All right, yeah, they sell to the retailer. The retailer buys into the gimmick. They buy those variants, and then they sit in a back issue bin somewhere and never sell.
Yep.
And Diamond's
Yep.
more than happy to buy it on a gimmick because it's all short-sighted in terms of the way their company works. Oh yeah, quick, we can sell a whole bunch of stock to get that variant. That's 1 out of 100 that we definitely don't have overstock of.
Yeah, it's a scheme. It is a scheme. Please understand this. Point two, refocus on consistency. There are plenty of reasons the direct market works as a sector, but the number one reason has to be the weekly comics fan. Thank you, Adam. The person who shows up each week, no matter what is going on in their lives, to pick up their comics, even those who will never have the time to read them all, talks to the store staff and gives a portion of every week to thinking about what they are going to buy when they go in. But they won't show up if you don't ship. Dedicate yourself to consistency. Pick a date each month that is yours and own it with the best product you can build. This strategy works if you are a comics publisher, retailer, creator, or, I don't know, TikTok dancer. You won't build an audience if they don't know when to meet you. Be on time.
Sure.
Tyler, how many times do we have to shift either the poll or the main books for Pals polls because something was pushed?
We're going to be talking about it after we're done recording this. Yeah,
It happens all the time, right?
all the time.
And what a lot of people don't know is that, generally speaking, books actually release on the same week every month. And you're supposed to kind of get into a rhythm. Like, I know when I can expect to see certain books, right? That's how it is. So when that book gets pushed back even a week, maybe 2 weeks, sometimes longer, it's like, well, shit, how do I orient myself around that? I don't get mad about Avengers vs. Aliens because they told us from the beginning it's going to be bi-monthly, every other month. Okay, fine.
And like I think of World's Finest and Justice League Unlimited. Those usually come out in the same week. It's double Dan. It used to be double Dan Mora, and then Superman's on there as well, so we get some more Dan Mora. So yeah, there is a ritual. There's a pattern that even subconsciously you're recognizing.
It makes it easy to build a habit around that.
Comic book
that's what
collecting
you
is
do.
a habit. Yeah.
Yeah, you habitualize it.
Hmm.
Matt Fisher with a couple things here. The first one being with quality toy over quality lift. Marvel the way too many books out. Has too many books out, I think he's trying to say. And then Matt Fisher also follows up with a $4.99, says first issue variants are fine. 3 dozen variants of issue 7 is ridiculous. Agreed.
It's out of hand. It's out of hand, and I think anyone can see that.
I don't know if this point may be covered at some other point in this list, but I'm also thinking in terms of consistency, consistent books, not just resetting to number one, not just relying on a reset to number one. Let these titles build in a way, similar to the old way, where, we can create jumping on points no matter the number.
Yeah.
Even creatively, consistency is an issue we talk about with Ultimate Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And Chichetto not always being on it. That consistency is consistent across multiple facets of the industry.
Inconsistency is
Well, yeah,
consistent
exactly,
across. Yeah.
And I agree. I think that's a huge problem. We should be able to expect, anticipate, and quite frankly demand that what we are sold on, what we are promised, is what we are given. It should work that way. And when it comes to the constant resetting of books and number ones and stuff like that, you get to feel like it gets to the point where it feels like they're just jingling fucking keys at us. Like, oh, hey, here's this number one.
Well,
it's brand new.
yeah.
Go get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have ADHD, so I'm down with that.
Where'd it go?
It doesn't feel good.
I mean, Cole right here says quite literally what you just mentioned, Sean. Dynamite selling $100 metal cover of Captain Planet.
That's
It's
crazy.
literally the same material as Keys.
A metal cover for Captain Planet? That seems wrong.
That
That
seems
seems-
that
yeah,
seems
right?
anti Captain Planet.
Yeah, I don't think he would be happy about that.
He's probably not
One of the
okay with it
most-
being a comic book in general because that's pulp trees.
Sure.
That's fucking stupid.
And World at War Comics also says, my comic shop did not get their books from Diamond this week. He will not get them until Monday. Not sure the reason, but confirms your point. Yeah, and we had that whole slew at the beginning of the year, or even a couple months, of just like 6 weeks worth of certain shops not even getting things. Like, it's rampant.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem like we're gonna have a solution to that particular problem anytime soon, as long as Diamond is in the mix.
I was going to say, if the death of Diamond does happen, does that at least give the ability for the industry to then restructure and make consistency?
Depends on who's distributing.
It's true.
Because
Right.
Depends on who
guarantee
fills the
this:
hole.
Lunar and Penguin Random House are not picking up every bit of the industry that Diamond can't sustain. That's not going to happen.
Yep.
Marvel and DC can then be consistent.
They're the only clients. They sure
Yeah.
damn well better be.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's continue with Adam's points, though. So, point 3 is market the shit out of it. Variant covers made us complacent. They made us weak. It's time to get back to the gym. Build your social media campaign, your advertising campaign, your marketing campaign, and your retailer relations campaign. If you don't know the difference between those, let's talk. Before you solicit and work those plans within an inch of their lives, then go back and rework them when they don't perform. Nothing sells wholesale like retail demand, and that is not something you can delegate to the busy retailer. They'll thank the retailer gods for those that can hand sell.
Now, Marco, why did your butt cheeks clench there?
The retailer relations campaign. I think that's a great point. You guys have talked about like when the Green Lantern stuff came out, right? You have the rings. You have. I remember my shop used to have posters that I used to buy. They used to have full standees for certain things. That's a great point
The
because
Justice
you
League
build.
cards.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
build buzz and yes, yeah, the Justice League cards. You build buzz and excitement at on the ground floor, right? And then your retailer becomes the advocate for your book, for whatever that might be, and that's an important it's an important relationship to have because they're the end point of sale.
In the fucking what is it? The old heads will remember the 70s or 80s. Do you remember Spider-Man getting I mean, none of us will remember, but Spider-Man and Mary Jane got married at a baseball game.
Wait, what?
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Um,
Is that where Paul first saw MJ?
Must be.
Yeah.
And you know he's a Yankees fan.
Oh,
I'm a Yankees fan.
It does feel, though,
And you're wearing a Bernie hat? Come on.
oh wow.
it does feel though like the industry gave up at some point on like marketing.
We've been saying that. Like it's been a surprise that DC's been doing marketing. You know, AEW ring aprons. I was like, whoa, what the fuck? There's marketing? They put money into this?
And they're still half-assing it.
Yeah, yeah. That is. I could print that at
If
Kinko's. Does Kinko's exist still? At Staples? I don't know.
Well, PR is necessary. Ghost Machine launched. They had the New York Times write up. That's important. You're making statements, right? You can use that as combination with actual advertising for your marketing strategy, social media as well. Like it's prevalent. You have to have that.
I've heard. Do we have any retailers in the chat? Because I would love for someone to speak to this. But I've heard that for retailers, the relationship between them and the publisher is often non-existent. And so that's why
Mm.
when Scott Snyder went on his grand tour trying to sell Absolute Batman, that's why when Robert Kirkman does what he does with Void Rivals, that is why those initiatives were so successful. This guy, Robert Kirkman, put his fucking boots on and got on the phone, went to these stores, pounded the pavement to sell Void Rivals. It was one of the most successful launches of the year, and it blew the door off the Energon universe, which is now one of the most successful initiatives we have in comics.
And then continue to do it. Like there's a reason why I was able to at New York Comic Con do roundtable discussions with them. Because they're still pounding the pavement at these conventions and everything.
Yeah.
Ghost Machine is at most conventions at this point.
And they went on at that initial launch. They were on Good Morning America.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Great PR. That's great stuff. You hit a mass audience of people that you would want to come into contact with.
The fourth point that Adam makes is spread your risks and your reward. Any of my retailer friends who are reading this, can I recommend that you skip to number 5? Are they gone? Okay, good. Publishers, if you don't have a direct to consumer plan that isn't just a website and tabling at your favorite conventions every year, this will not be the last implosion threatening to take you down. Your business plan must include some sort of direct to consumer marketing and sales plans. That means, but isn't limited to, conventions and a website, yes, but also crowdfunding and email campaigns. It means social media ads to support all those things. It means advertising on every platform you can afford. You started a comics publisher to develop a fan base. You owe it to yourself and your team to always be growing that base. The benefit of this is that larger consumer demand and more impressions will not only benefit your direct sales, they actually increase demand in the comic shops and bookstores themselves.
Yeah.
How do publishers reach us?
Uh, I think the mention here is the impressions, right? You have to drive awareness campaigns, not conversion. The conversion is short sighted. It's a small. It is cost per an acquisition. Fine, right? You have a goal. I can only imagine you have a goal, and I sympathize for you, right? But in order to be able to push people down that funnel in this fractured ecosystem that we exist on, not only are you running awareness campaigns on all platforms that you possibly can, you need to be able to have the infrastructure to be able to then take that information and remarket to those people. That's the biggest thing. Like, we're going to talk about it later, but the new DC like monthly tier, great idea. And for anybody who's in marketing, I hope they tag the shit out of that page. They have that implemented as events on their app, because if not, you're losing out on valuable first party data to be able to inform those campaigns that you're running.
The most comics adjacent direct to consumer marketing I've seen is like Marvel Rivals. I get Marvel Rivals like actual ads on my social media constantly. On TikTok, I'm scrolling through and then I see a Marvel Rivals ad, and of course I watch that whole thing because they're engaging. And I don't remember the last time I've seen Marvel do that. Like if there's a new Spider-Man #1, there should be an ad like that, even for like a week or something before like final order cutoff or something. Like just that shove it. Like I know people say don't shove comics down my throat. No, do that via marketing.
Yes, do it.
So can I clarify here, because some of this marketing social media speak confuses the shit out of me. Impressions is awareness, right? Like it's seeing a post on the feed and then somebody scrolls past it.
Right.
Conversions being getting those people out to a comic shop and buying the thing. So what you are saying is it's better to have them see something and be aware. Oh, DC Comics is doing something today. That's weird. That's in the back of my mind. And Superman's there. Huh. Um, and to constantly sort of have that going, because in the long run, that will get more that gets people talking.
That gets more people familiar. And to your point, it's in the back of the mind. You continue with like just kind of bombard people with it. And then with that, ideally, the conversion is you drive them to the website, you drive them to, let's say, a digital purchase, whatever that might be. I was going to bring up an example here. I've been getting hit a lot by the Comics Art Festival, which is happening at the end of
Same.
the month in New York.
Yeah, me too.
And it makes sense that this aligns with our sensibilities. Where it's more like European, whatever kind of art, that kind of stuff. But that's what you do. You keep doing that. You keep sending that messaging. It took me about maybe, I don't know, 7 times of seeing this ad before I'm like, you know what? Let me click. Let's see what the prices are.
That's so funny. BJ just said on average it takes 7 impressions before someone makes a buying decision.
Yeah, 100%. Which is why you do that. You set that as frequency. You keep
Or,
that coming.
or the,
And once you land on the page, let's say you don't convert, you're basically stamped. I can now follow you across wherever the fuck you go on the internet, and be like, here, add, here, add, here, add, here, add, here, add, here.
Or even in just like recognition
God, I hate
too is important too. Like I think of like Marvel Rivals again. I play a lot of it, but like think about Jeff the Land Shark's popularity since then. That got on so many eyes that Marvel even decided to start printing the digital comics physically. That because there's so many impressions on a certain character, they know to then print more of that book. So they're at least doing something there, even though it's bare bones. But at least there's impressions there and there's views, and people are more recognizable to that character now.
I like the point that, or I wanted to reference the point that Cole made. I don't understand why more creatives don't get out there and promote their books. I probably wouldn't have gotten Bug Wars if it wasn't for seeing Jason Aaron talk about it on this show and others.
Hmm.
So there's a big problem with that, right? Like, agreed. I was glad that Jason came on, and I'm sure that we sold some comics through that conversation. But Jason doesn't get paid more by Image to come here and do that. And maybe that's a bad example because Jason really does have to pound the pavement for Bug Wars. But let's say Kelly Thompson. Let's take Kelly Thompson for example, who's doing Absolute Wonder Woman. Kelly Thompson doesn't get paid any more money at all, not one single dollar more, if Absolute Wonder Woman sells more copies due to her coming on here and talking about it. DC doesn't say, "Hey, for every time you go on a show, we're going to add $100 to your purse." You know that doesn't happen. And so for Kelly, taking the hour plus that it would come on here to talk about Absolute Wonder Woman is actually taking away from her time to be able to make Absolute Wonder Woman or whatever else. The problem with your suggestion is that the publishers don't incentivize in any material way the idea that these creators come on here and do what you're suggesting. So it's essentially free labor. And our show, we do okay. We've got some decent numbers. If they go on near mint condition, or if they go on Comics Are Dope, or one of those channels, they'll be seen by a lot of people. But what if they go on a show that has, I don't know, 50 average viewers?
Huh.
They might get
Now
one
Kelly,
sale.
yeah,
Yeah.
now Kelly has taken 2 hours out of her day to go on a channel that her interview will be seen by like 150 people.
If that, right? Like, and of that 150 people, who goes to purchase, all that kind of stuff, right? And to Image and Skybound's credit, right? Like, we get, for example, we get review copies, right? So we're able to at least review things beforehand. It makes it easier for us to talk about the books. They facilitate things, but a lot of the times, some of the creators aren't as accessible because you're right, it's not beneficial necessarily for them.
That's why when you see someone on our show, it's probably because there's an indie book coming out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or there's downtime, There's some creators who actually do like to just come on and talk stuff because they don't get that opportunity.
Or we made a good impression at New York Comic Con.
Yeah.
We've got some kind of relationship with them that like Jason Aaron, I physically had to go up to him and ask him to do the show because we couldn't there wasn't a lane. It wasn't happening any other way. We did the same thing with Joshua Williamson. We physically went because by the way, Marvel and DC, they don't play ball the way you might think they do. We don't have a Marvel and DC liaison that says, "Hey, we've got these people available for interview." That don't happen. At the very least, it would be nice if Marvel and DC took a look at the podcasts that do numbers and do a good job with their creator interviews and said, "Hey, can you interview so and so? They've got a book coming out." I don't care who it is. Let it be Erica Schultz, who's doing the Elektra Daredevil book right now,
the Red Band
and the X-23 book right now. We'd love to have her on. Marvel should say, "Hey, have her on."
And filter for the channels that will be effective. Like there are always, like Sean mentioned, right? There's instances of like smaller channels getting these big interviews, right? But very few times have we ever gotten a request for like, what are your numbers? A shout out to Tiny Onion because they're on top of it. They're like, hey, before we do anything, what are your numbers? Before we even talk, what are you driving in? Because they need to understand whether or not it's worth it. And fingers crossed from there.
World at War Comics says 100% true, Sean. They make it very hard. Yeah. And it's
you
almost like
know.
they don't even. It doesn't even matter to them, because it's Spider-Man. It's gonna sell. This Electro book. It's 5 issues. Who cares?
And you know what, Tyler? They're right. They may be right about Spider-Man. What about all the other books? And more importantly than just the individual book, what about what Adam is talking about? The relationship between the
Yeah.
publisher and the fan. We are the conduit for that because they don't have the bandwidth to send a Kelly Thompson or an Erica Schultz across the fucking country on a tour, but you can do that digitally. So why not build a relationship with the basis of community like this one, so that we can have that relationship?
And I also think they've been too hesitant on making their creators personalities. Like Chip becomes who Chip is because Chip's a personality. Chip became a personality in the indies and then went to Marvel and DC and did work there. I feel like Marvel and DC are too afraid of making their architects again because the last time they did that, those guys pieced out and started doing creator owned stuff. So they're afraid to then market creators as personalities because in their eyes that's not a good enough investment for them because they don't care about who's on a book. Sure, Hickman matters. Maybe they can put Hickman on a couple of podcasts or shows or whatever, and then subsidize that for Hickman's time. But that Elektra book, or sorry, that Daredevil, I dead named her, doesn't require that.
But somebody like Chip he's a character. Like
Sure.
how do you do that for somebody who's not necessarily someone who isn't that like you can't necessarily push that on that individual.
Not everyone's going to be like a personality in the sense that like they're funny, they're recognizable. But if you get their face out, people will still start following creators.
And also, like, Jason Aaron, right? Great guy. I thought we had a wonderful interview. He's not like the most bombastic person, right? It's not like he came on here with fucking flags and shit, He came on here, he talked about his work, he talked about his books, and people were interested enough to say, you know what? I'm going to go buy that off of the conversation that Jason Aaron had with the Comics Pals. That's all.
And typically writers have a way with words. It's their job. So it sometimes translates to at least be that passion can show when they're talking about it. Some not so much. Some are a little trickier.
The last point that Adam makes is essentially what we just talked about, so we don't need to belabor it. But he says the last point is build community. This means a lot of different things for a lot of different companies, but I can tell you what I've seen work: podcasts, newsletters, Discord channels, meetups, and conventions, and many, many more. Find your tribe. Your fans are not just consumers, they are people with interesting lives, and they want to connect. Be open to that connection and find as many channels to start and grow those conversations as possible. It's not rocket science when it comes to that.
Ghost Machine does it. It's been successful.
Yeah, exactly.
Skybound's done it.
This conversation is one that we're going to continue to have because we have to. I like Adam Freeman's solutions. I think every single one of them should be applied by every single publisher and every single distributor and every retailer who can.
Minimum.
Everybody. Minimum. That's without even thinking outside the box. Just literally what he said.
Yep. Yeah.
And it has to start now. There is we're not there in my opinion, but there is a point where it's too late.
Reaching out right now.
Yeah. Reach out to us.
Oh, I'm reaching out to him.
Oh.
I got the site.
You're reaching out to Adam Freeman?
Yeah.
Oh, sick.
Prana Services?
Yeah. I would love to talk to him.
You got a whole ass website that I checked out earlier.
All right. We have to keep this train rolling because we have a lot more show to do, believe it or not. Thank you guys so much for being a part of this conversation. You guys make this so much fun to do. Really appreciate the engagement. You guys have been locked the fuck in throughout this entire conversation, and thank you for that. We've got a lot of other big topics to come. We are going to talk about Daredevil Daredevil Born Again. The first couple episodes dropped, so we will be able to get to that, hopefully, and a couple other things. Before we do all that, this month is Brian Michael Bendis month. Bendis is coming. And hey, listen.
I don't need that all over the place.
No. You know what? Yeah, I agree. Keep that shit at home, Bendis. Bendis is coming, and you guys are going to decide which Brian Michael Bendis book is going to be the subject of this month's book club. You have four options because these are the options that you all voted for, and frankly, nothing too terribly surprising here. The options are Daredevil, which is sitting at 11%. I thought, given the series, the television show would get more votes, but no. Ultimate Spider-Man at 19%. I thought it would win in a landslide. Alias at 30%, and New Avengers standing tall at 41% right now. Any supporter of our patreon.com/the comics pals can vote. So get your vote in. We will be closing things down on Tuesday. Are you guys surprised by the options at all? Only Marvel.
Nah, that's expected.
That yeah tracks.
I'm surprised by the Avengers part.
Yeah.
Really? In so much that in an Avengers book is on the list, or that it's New Avengers?
Well, that it's in the lead.
I thought it would be Ultimate Spider-Man, like, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, same. But I feel like people have gone past that. Maybe.
I'm not sure what it is. I really like. I'd love to hear from you guys. What's the reason? Because I want to read New Avengers the most personally. Maybe it's because that is that book is specifically representative of an era at Marvel, and it ties into so many other things. Maybe it's something like that. I don't know. I can't
Hmm.
call it.
Out of that list, I would like to read Alias, actually. New Avengers is a close second, but I do love Alias.
Yeah, that's the one I was hoping for was Alias.
And I've never fully read it. I've read like key issues before, just to like peek my head in. But I would like to read it as a whole.
You guys can vote patreon.com/the comics pals. While we're on the matter, though, I want to thank Jackson, who upgraded his Patreon pledge from the Palsverse tier to the Palsverse Legend tier. Thank you so much, Jackson, for that. That is incredible of you to do. Appreciate you. What we're gonna do though to celebrate Bendis month is we are going to count down the top 5 Brian Michael Bendis written characters. Our favorite characters that Bendis graced throughout his entire career. It doesn't have to be Marvel. It could be indie. You could list anyone you want as long as Bendis wrote them in a way that you enjoyed, that excited you, whatever the case may be.
Thank God you didn't do titles, dude.
This is not Marco's forte.
It's
Well,
not.
I thought we could mix it up a little bit. Like last time we did Captain America moments. I thought we could mix it up and have a little fun. Is anybody ready to go with their we gotta do 2 today. Is anybody ready with 2?
I'm
I
ready
am.
with two.
Yeah, I'm ready. Yeah.
My first is Peter Parker, Ultimate Spider-Man. I've read I think maybe the first 2 trades of that run, and it felt true to form. It was earlier in my comics reading career, but I just remember having fun with him, his problems. He was younger, which also reflected what I had been reading of Amazing Spider-Man, the OG stuff. So it just felt like it aligned, and it didn't feel like it was aping anything, and just a natural kind of evolution. So I really appreciated it and had fun. The next one is going to be right into the indie space. Powers. It's going to
Yeah.
be Trip Hammer. Trip Hammer's is. Oh, I thought someone was reacting to my Trip Hammer selection there. I was like, damn, I don't know if he was that big a fan. Who is this like lumbering kind of Iron Man like character? Uh, he he has he's a main, not a main character, but he's definitely an important supporting character over the course of the first couple arcs, and I think he's a can be a nuanced character as some of the events of the book play out. So if anyone's hasn't read Powers, highly recommend it. There's like maybe I want to say 20 series, 20 like uh books out of this thing. It's a huge series, and it's continued on for quite a while.
I'll go next because my number 5 is also Peter Parker Spider-Man. And here's the thing: I've never famously I've never read Ultimate Spider-Man by Brian Michael Bendis, so that could be what shades this. But I just think the way he wrote Spider-Man as an Avenger and was the first guy to pull the trigger on that was kind of influential. Like for me, since I've been reading Avengers, Spider-Man has been an Avenger in some form of capacity most of the time. But there was never an Avengers that existed for me that didn't have Spider-Man on it ever. So and there's some bits in it that I just love, and the few times he's gotten to write Spider-Man in the 616 I've enjoyed. Like even Spider-Man is fun. I don't think it's great, but it's fun. He has a good voice for the character. I think Bendis speak works for Peter very well. I'm still wildly surprised he's never written Spider-Man proper. And that would be a big move for Marvel to do, just saying.
I still want to see it one day.
Me too. Just to see what it's like. Even if it's, not even if they don't tell us how long the run is and it winds up being short, fine, whatever. Number 4 for me is Daredevil. Bendis, Bendis was part of that post Marvel Knights run with Daredevil, and really kind of like solidified him in this new kind of grittier, realistic storytelling that was kind of new to the early 2000s. And I think Kevin Smith really helped start that with Marvel Knights. But Bendis kind of continued it, and I think honed in on it and really solidified that as the feel for Daredevil going forward that Brubaker kind of continued as a guy who his life sucks. I mean, Miller did that with Born Again too, but it really continued the almost batting 1,000 runs that, from Bendis onward, pretty much everyone has done some of their best work on Daredevil. Cough, Shadowland. But yeah, I think Bendis' Daredevil is some good stuff.
I have a lot of trouble with this actually. It's been a very long time since I read a Bendis character. So my number 5 my number 5 is going to be Aunt May.
What?
I love that in Ultimate Spider-Man, Aunt May is not a doddering old lady. And I genuinely like that she's like she reminded me of my mom. Someone who takes no sass and there I think it was, oh my god, it's volume 3. It's Peter has to go out to I think it's Jersey to fight Dr. Octopus, and he has to figure out a way to get home. And so he gets home at like 3 a.m. and he's trying to explain what happened and where it was, and he's trying to keep his secret identity or whatever. And she's like, okay, right, you're safe, cool, great, you're grounded. And I went, oh shit, that's my mom. Because it felt like that felt so real. Not just for me, but it felt like a real, it made her feel like a real character that added stakes to Peter's life. And I think that's something Aunt May has needed for a long time. So yeah, Aunt May. My number 4 is actually gonna be from Powers, but the Powers TV show. And I'm not positive how much influence he had over the TV show, but Eddie Izzard, who goes by a different name now, and I apologize for not knowing that, but
Lizzie, is it?
But they Eddie Izzard plays a character called the Big Bad Wolf, who's basically Vandal Savage, and the character is sort of Vandal Savage in this unknown indie universe. And the way this character is written was so threatening that at the time it was coming out alongside the first season of Daredevil, I would have put him up there with Kingpin. the portrayal of this character was tremendous.
Leave it to a comedian.
I fucked up not watching that.
I mean,
It-
were we
it
going to
was-
watch it on a PlayStation? Like, that's the only place you
Yeah.
could really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was on the PlayStation TV network. I had to I had to do like a crazy circuitous route to get to it, but I did, and you know what? I don't regret it.
Yeah, I might have to go back, but I've only read Precious Little of Powers anyway, so maybe. Well, I was gonna say maybe we could read that for the book club, but we definitely fucking can't.
Sorry. Maybe that was our problem. Maybe we should have narrowed it. Or maybe let's return to it and only do
Exactly.
Bendis Indies. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's an
I like
idea.
that. I like that. My number 5 is someone that people who listened to my most recent newsletter will know that I have a bunch of affection for, and that is Jessica Drew, Spider-Woman.
Ooh.
So,
Swerve.
yeah, Jessica Drew is a character that I did not even know existed really prior to New Avengers. I'm sure I'd seen her somewhere, especially like the older costume. But this version of the character was um very, like, you didn't know what side exactly she was on, and there was always the potential of something else under her sleeve, and you didn't really know. And she became very interesting. You go back to that first, like, up until Secret Invasion, Jessica Drew is almost the main character of New Avengers. Her shifting allegiances, her history with Madam Hydra, I think. I can't remember
Yeah, I
exactly.
believe so. Yeah. Yeah.
And I thought all that stuff was really brilliant. He was able to make her somebody who was compelling, somebody who was alluring. Her power set matched her personality and the things that she was doing. And I remember being enraptured by the whole Jessica Drew saga. So
I mean, we'll talk about it eventually with my list too. But Bendis really upped the cachet of a lot of characters by putting them on the Avengers. Jessica Drew is one of them because he was really just female Spider-Man in a publishing line before
right.
that. And like since then, Kelly Thompson's written it. She shows up as a prominent side character in Alias too, by Bendis. So yeah, I 100% agree.
I believe this is a fun fact. Bendis originally wanted to use Jessica Drew for Alias, but he was not allowed, so he created Jessica Jones. I believe that's accurate.
Oh,
Speaking of Jessica Jones, she
Explains
is
something.
my number 4. I loved Alias. I thought Alias was fantastic, and I read that well after New Avengers and stuff. I only read it because I love Jessica Jones, excuse me, so much during Bendis's era with the character in New Avengers. Um, she's one of the few Marvel characters that I really feel like I've watched have an arc as a human being. We saw her go from this private investigator who's so hard edged, and she used to be a superhero, but now she's not, and she was so colorful, but now she's dark, and you start to watch her lighten up and become happy. She gets with Luke Cage. They have a child together. We've watched that child grow. And in the center of that has been Jessica Jones. We saw her become a superhero again and then go away from that. But she's always retained this like take no shit attitude. She keeps Luke in line, which I love. And I thought she provided a vital role during those earlier New Avengers years. I love that character. So she's my number 4.
Yeah, I mean, she had her own whole ass TV show because of Bendis.
yeah.
Right. Hell yeah. Hell yeah, dude.
Damn
Let's go ahead, Marco.
It's just always so interesting to hear, like, in retrospect, like the prolific uh uh career. Like you hear about it from through osmosis, but I wasn't in comics at the time. That was the prior era to me even coming into it.
Yeah, and it's weird for you. It's weird for me. It's weird for me that people talk about Bendis the way they do now, because in my mind, I only think about Bendis as peak. Like Bendis was the guy for me. So it's weird that we're looking back on this, and it's weird to be on a podcast with someone who doesn't have a context for a lot of this stuff. Like whatever we end up reading, probably New Avengers will be all new material for you.
Yep. Any of the selections, honestly, except for Ultimate Spider-Man, and even then, it's a small it's like a sliver of a selection.
Right. It's crazy.
25 years, bro.
Hayden's Hideout says number 5 for him is Hal Jordan in the Batman universe, and number 4 is Batman. So some DC picks there. Luna's number 5 is Amethyst, and number 4 is Wonder Girl. So a couple more DC picks. Not a lot of love for Bendis' DC work at all, even in the poll or the nominations threads. Excuse me.
I mean, what? Superman and Event Leviathan?
Those were really his own big high profile stuff. Like Batman Universe was the Walmart book, and then Young Justice was kind of like a side thing. That was only like 5 issues. Didn't even last long.
I feel like he didn't last. I feel like he didn't last long on books anyhow. Like they didn't keep him around on stuff. He kind of like kickstarted them, and then from there would get bounced around.
Not even Kickstart. Like Young Justice, I think ended once Bendis was gone. Like Legion of Superheroes was the thing Bendis was writing, and ended once he was gone. So he wasn't as prolific at DC as he was at Marvel.
He had the Wonder Comics line, which had a few books, his Superman run, the Event Leviathan stuff, the Batman universe stuff. So he did a lot in a short span of time, but I just don't think it was a good relationship. I'm not fully sure why it didn't work out, because Bendis clearly still could write at that point. Batman universe was real good, but the other stuff just didn't hit the mark.
I think he'll be known for his Superman run and revealing Clark's identity and it being kind of mid, which is unfortunate.
I hope not.
You're muted, Cal. Yeah.
I sort of wonder if it's the thing of, he came to DC, and obviously this is pure speculation, but it feels like, you come to DC and the first thing you do is reveal Clark Kent's identity. Like that had to have been like the thing to get him there. And I feel like if that's what you're coming in to do, like the relationship is like terse in the first place, right? Like if that's your big goal, then what story do you have to tell?
He kind of showed up and kicked the chairs down, and flipped the table over,
and not even like in a good way, right? Like,
yeah, I think there's an antagonism toward
yes.
Bendis for what he did over there, and he did it without grace. Like Spider-Man revealing his identity was a big deal, but Mark Miller and Marvel at the time certainly had the fan belief in them to pull that off, and that didn't exist when Bendis did what he did with Superman. It just wasn't there.
Well, and I think Sean, you were saying just a second ago that like you find it kind of hard to believe that there are people who don't necessarily see Bendis in the same light that we did, back in the New Avengers days and the Secret Invasion days. But like it, there's a degree, like we sort of watched him decline in real time at Marvel. Like his X-Men run, we don't talk about it, and then like to have him go to DC, it just like, like Bendis is the reason I wanted to go into writing comics and like making stuff in general, because he was so accessible with his notes and his interviews and his process and do it. A lot of his focus was on teaching and doing so much. But then you would read his work and it was like, this doesn't jive anymore. Like there's so many other people out here doing more impactful things, whereas Bendis just kind of feels like he's just doing it.
Cale, I try not to think about the last 2 or 3 years of Bendis at Marvel.
But that's how we're in the situation we just spent 40 years talking about tariffs, and that's the exact problem we got. Got to look at the past
We had
That-
Defenders at least. I already got crucified for that on Near Mint.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna shit on you for that one, dude. We did that enough. Matt Fisher with the 499. Revealing Clark's identity is fine, but I doubt people will ever forgive him for John Kent. Yeah, I think that's a part of it too. But personally, and we do really do need to move the show forward. But personally, my theory has always been that that was something that happened to tee up John for 5G. We
Yeah.
know for a fact Didio planned for John to be the new main Superman. That's not going to be a child. So I believe Bendis was tasked with that rather than that was like his core idea. All right. Let's kick the news off with a quick congratulations to DC Comics, who are touting over on Blue Sky that the Jim Lee and Jeff Loeb Batman number 158, the issue that will kick off the Hush 2 era, has received 400,000 pre-orders from stores.
400,000?
Yeah.
Holy shit! It's a lot of tariffs.
It's a big number.
Pre-orders.
Oh, sorry.
Pre-orders.
That's what wasn't the Ninja Turtles, wasn't that that high up there too?
I believe it was 300K? It was somewhere in the
Pretty
vicinity
high.
of 3 to 400K.
Pretty high up there. Yeah. Wow.
Absolute Batman was pretty high up there as well. This is a big release. It's a big pre-order amount. I think I expected a little bit more,
Yeah.
and it is too late.
I think I expect a little bit more too. I wonder if that's because it's just like, I don't know. Maybe we'll expect more once that crossover happens. However that comes about. But I don't know. I just can't stop looking at the horrible design for the name of this book. It's Arial wide with a 2 in the U. Come on.
It's a little bizarre. Yeah.
It's just bad.
So, according to Bleeding Cool, there is a 1 of 25 variant, which means you have to order 25 standard copies to get one of this variant. And that variant is actually one that features the Joker, Hush, and Batman on it. It looks like Libre Mayo. It's really good in any event. There's a 1 out of 50, which features Hush, of course. I'm not sure who the artist is on that one. There's a 1 out of 100, which is a Virgin Jim Lee standard cover. There's a 1 of 250. And then there are 2 signed 1 608 variants. And then a 1 of 1,000 that's signed by both Jim and Jeff Loeb. Woo!
So we just floating on down the road to destruction here.
That's
With
all it
yeah.
is.
It was always going to be Batman. You live, you start out as a hero. You live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
You notice how we start talking about DC, getting a high number of pre-orders, then Mr. DC Comics himself shows up.
Wolf.
Oh, there
Huh.
it is.
He
Can
heard
we
it.
talk? Can we talk, Mr. DC? What the fuck are you doing, man? What are you doing to us, dude? 1 of 1,000. How many shops can afford to order 1,000 copies of this comic?
It's going in the safe behind the counter at Midtown Comics.
I would be surprised if even Midtown can order that.
Yeah, honestly.
I would just wait, guys. Wait on buying that until Diamond needs more money and they start selling it at a discount.
For real.
Well, that's why it's there. Actually, you're right. Yeah, they're hoarding it.
Hayden's Hideout, who, by the way, Hayden, I keep wanting to shout out your messages. You're funny. He shouted out that there's a West Coast Avengers Jessica Drew variant. He knows about all the Gooner covers. That's his gimmick. So thank you, Hayden, because you will help me pick out my covers now. He says, my dad collected comics up until the 90s. I recently got him back into comics with Ultimate Wolverine, and now he's looking forward to Hush 2. Readers are returning for this.
Okay.
Not by those pre-order numbers.
I was trying to find what Absolute Batman was, what Superman was. I feel like it was in like the 500s.
Yeah, they were up there like this. Yeah. Yeah.
But then if that's the case, if Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was 300, if Absolute Superman was 500, if Batman was 500, Are we in the top 80% of comic book purchasers? You know what I mean? Like, is that total volume?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I understand what you're actually asking.
If we average that out, right? If we average that out as the 300, the 400, the 500, right? Whatever that is, let's say 400. Is that the average volume of readers that are there? We're expecting more, but by these averages, are there more?
I I was kind of joking because I know that this number, this 400K, is going to be a lot higher than that once we start talking about second, third, fourth, fifth
Yeah.
printings, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
What like people who want this book will not be able to get it. It's not something that's going to sit there and collect dust. And
Yeah.
so we'll be talking about this book differently in 6 months.
I won't.
Well,
Hmm.
Uncanny Suit says it's a good pre-order number, just not great. I think in the comics landscape right now, it's about as high as you're ever going to see.
Yeah.
I think my thing is I would have expected it to be higher.
I think tariffs probably has something to do with that because we're at the point now where people need to start prepping for that as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe.
It could factor. I look, truthfully, I think pre-orders are bullshit anyways because I've never pre-ordered a fucking thing and I get what I want except when I don't. So I think it doesn't reveal the actual number of people who want the book.
Sure. Yeah.
Because it's what stores buy.
Yeah,
Right. Right.
and unless every store sells out of every issue, then it doesn't. It's not an accurate number.
Right.
Sure.
And like
Maybe.
that won't happen at my LCS. They won't sell every copy at my LCS. But maybe the one near you, Tyler, won't have additional copies, and they'll have to go back and grab the second and third printings.
Yep.
So for me, I take this as a good thing. I think it could have been higher, but I do believe that once it's released and we get into additional printings, we're going to see that number jump.
Yeah. Yeah. Once we get the actual sales, it'll be higher.
Okay, so the Runaways are running back onto your stands because of Doctor Doom. We're getting a One World Under Doom tie-in series with the Runaways with a creative team that I think is pretty exciting. Rainbow Rowell and Elena Casagrande.
Okay, so I loved Rainbow Roll's Runaways story previous to this. It was Rainbow Roll and Chris Anka,
Yeah.
which was phenomenal. They had a good like 38 issues on it, which in today's day and age, that's a
Wow.
run. That's a full ass run.
38.
Yeah, yeah,
Holy shit.
and it's just really good. It added some
With
really
Chris
fun
Anka,
characters.
too. Like,
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. It was probably Chris Anka was the last ongoing, I think,
that's probably true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it was really damn good. They added Doombot to the team and this other demon that is related to the BKV runaway stuff. They're in an old bunker that was one of their parents had. It's just really good teenage drama stuff. And Rainbow Rowell is one of those writers at Marvel that I think they underappreciate. They being Marvel. Her stuff on She-Hulk was great. Like she had She-Hulk running for a good amount of time in terms of series for a She-Hulk comic in the year 2025. So I'm happy to see they continue with this, even though it's only a mini. Right? It's only they say it was 5 issues.
Yes, a 5-issue mini.
I'm hoping it's more of a like, hey, we'll do 5 issues. If it does well, let's do more because I think could be great. And I think Elena Casagrande, who was on Kelly Thompson's Black Widow,
Was it? Yeah, Black
Yep.
Widow.
Yeah. phenomenal artist. So they're continuing that streak of just great artists on Runaways.
Can I just point? Sorry to distract from the topic, but can I just point out that the fucking saint that I can't even curse around, comics are dope, said, sign me up for the Amber Rose variant. Excuse me? You want the Amber Rose variant? First of all, why would there be an Amber Rose variant? Second of all, where are you going to display that? You got kids. You can't put that up
Okay.
somewhere.
It would be an Amber Rose variant because Runaway, the song by Kanye West, now known as Ye, is about Amber Rose.
Hang on, I'm Googling.
Same.
Listen, I'm not saying I wouldn't buy it, Tyler.
Well, she's like a far right now, alt right person. So I'm a
that's
hard
true.
no on
And
that.
didn't she get a tattoo on her head? That's weird.
Yeah.
But I'm just confused as to why Comics Are Dope is going to buy it. You ain't, but you know you wouldn't buy that variant.
Listen, it ain't for displaying.
Then what is it for?
Well, listen, that's what we can't talk about.
I want to see BJ's hidden
Nasty.
collection of Gooner covers.
Oh.
That's what I want to see.
Sean, what you don't realize, because I don't think you're hearing it through Zoom, is that anytime we say Runaway, I'm playing the opening note to Kanye West's Runaway to the stream.
Oh yeah, I can't hear it.
Okay. Wow. All right. Yeah. See, I want to hear that shit. That's funny. You can be my Fred.
I think it's Zoom, it's just ruining it. I think.
Doesn't do it.
Damn it. Does this excite you guys, Marco, Cale?
I know a little about the Runaways. I watched a bit of the show. And I thought it was good. I haven't read the series, but I know about it through osmosis. So no, but I'm pumped that it's happening for the people that really like, because I know there were a lot of fans, and everyone that speaks about it speaks very highly of it.
Same. I know it through the show. I watched, I think, the first season, and it was good. So to have this now translated to another medium for me, right? Because from TV to this, is going to be interesting. And Rainbow Roll, I feel like any issue we've done that we've read of theirs, I think has been strong. So that plus the art, yeah, easy. This is going to be one of those. I feel like Pals Pulls books that from after the first issue, I decide, oh, am I sticking with this, or was this a good romp at the very least?
And I think the clear tie-in with Doombot being a member of the Runaways. It's a Doombot who's kind of separate from the programming of all the others. There's a clear tie-in there. But Marco, Brian K. Vaughan and Adrian Alfano did the original Runaways. It is right down your alley, dude.
I'm aware of it being a Brian K. Vaughan book, but it's one of those that's not I've not gone back to. Well, I have the Marvel Cale's login.
There you go, and you got time.
I want Chase Stein on this. Molly Hayes. Where's Molly Hayes?
She's in this. She'll be in this. So will Chase.
Thank goodness. And Victor Mancha.
He's there too.
Victor Mancha, is he alive?
Yeah, he's still around.
Yeah, where's
I
he
think
at?
he's part of this team too, or at least he was part of the Runaways book that Rainbow Roll did. Big part of it.
Again.
Yeah.
I thought Sean was naming snow bunnies again.
Remember Victor Mancha from
Vision? Yeah. Well,
okay.
that's when you said Victor Mancha, I went, oh, okay, I know what we're talking about.
Molly Hayes is like 12, so she ain't no bunny, all right?
Listen, but it's just a name, right? Like,
I'm a big Nico Minoru fan, so it's cool to see her in this. It's just like a really good group of characters that have consistently, Marvel creates so many young characters that get introduced and then we never see them again. Runaways has been consistently maybe not consistent in publication, but those characters are always coming back. I remember when Chase Stein was in Avengers Arena, great character in that, and Nico as well was in that. So these characters always show up, and Runaways is bound to come back again, and it's just nice seeing this team on it.
I will be buying this. I'm actually really excited. I think this is going to be quite good.
These variants.
Listen, they could get wild with them variants. Never mind.
Oh.
Matt Fisher with the 199. Sean LCS stories. You got to tune into Pals Pulls for those, bro. You know where I do that at.
For real.
Yeah. Comics Are Dope said no Gooners in my collection. I leave those for the insert stereotypical pejorative here. All right. So basically me. Whatever that pejorative is, you're targeting me with that. I see you, BJ.
He said for the Gooners.
But he's right.
James says, anybody picking up Battle Beast? Hell yeah.
Got delayed, but eventually. Can't
Yeah.
say no to Ryan Otley art.
Fingers crossed.
I got my fingers crossed for something when it comes to that book. And maybe we'll have an announcement. Who knows? Maybe. You never know what we're cooking up. Um, DC Universe Infinite Ultra monthly.
What did you just
Wow.
summon? That sounded like some kind of like some no, what is it? What are those things that Cale likes? Those superheroes, the Power Rangers.
Super Sentai, the Sentai.
Yeah, sound like a Sentai thing when they use their whatever.
Were there's
recorder.
originals? What are you talking about?
That's true.
The
Sounds like a
activation
fucking
code.
yeah trigger phrase. Like
Yeah.
that's how you activate. DC Universe
DC
Infinite Ultra
Comics.
monthly.
Must kill,
Ultra
must kill John
monthly.
Lennon. Must kill John Lennon.
So what DC is up to now is that they are adding a new tier to their Ultra or to their their DC Universe app, DC Universe Infinite Ultra. And then there's apparently DC Go vertical scroll readers. They've got all kinds of shit going on. But what they're doing is they are adding a tier that will allow you to check out books from DC a month after release, which is encroaching upon that day and date concept, which is really that's the tipping point where we're going to see interesting things start to happen. And that's where you can really start to analyze what people will do. But yeah, now you can get your books with a month window instead of I think the previous was what Marco 3 months.
No, so there's two tiers. The Ultra annual, they've added a monthly feature. They already have the annual, and that already is 30 days. This one is just you pay by month. So it's a new subscription level for a potential subscriber.
Ultra annual is $120 a year, so technically the $13 means you're saving $3 if you go annually, but you can do it monthly now.
Right, right. And the cheaper one, which I pay for, is I think 85 a year.
That's fascinating. So essentially, for $13 a month behind, you can read whatever you want. And so if Absolute Batman is $4.99 or whatever, and the others follow suit, you can buy like you're essentially buying 3 books for the entire catalog. You're just a month behind.
Yeah,
It's
which
really tempting.
I've been thinking about upgrading honestly, because
Marco, upgrade. I need that. I got Marco's DC password.
Yeah.
Marco, go ahead and upgrade.
I've been catching up on Hellblazer, and I'm like,
You'd get all of it now, yeah, because
I
it's
know,
done.
I
It
know,
finished a month
yeah.
ago.
So like, I'm like, damn, like the Flash, same thing. I'm caught up, but I'm 3 issues behind. So, and for anybody who is subscribed on Patreon, I did a DC Universe versus Marvel Unlimited with Global Comics kind of analysis on where I feel like the app business is. When it comes to subscription services, the monthly tier is always a higher volume, and high because of the higher volume, a higher share of revenue. In that analysis, it goes into deeper stuff, but what I felt like they needed to do was acquire more users. They're bleeding out from that perspective, and so this looks like a direct attempt to try to get more people into the fold. A month is a better time frame than a whole year. It's less investment up front, but over the course of time, you do see more value. The annual is still more valuable for DC, but because they're trying to increase their active users, their monthly active users, MAUs, you want to be able to subscribe at this monthly level. There's a whole slew of other things that I called out that I think they need to be doing first, but get people through the door, fine.
I mean, think about how many books, Sean, that you have in your stacks that you're a month behind on, minimum.
It's at least 3.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, if I wasn't doing pals polls, this might be the way.
Dude, what is it? I caught up on Hellblazer. I basically, for that cost, I basically paid my subscription.
Yeah, that's true. Just from reading one title. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. And like even if you're a month behind, it's still enough to be in the discussion too.
Yeah, it's not terribly long. Like
Yeah.
you can still work on having those conversations. The the Go reader part of this as well is interesting. Like obviously they're trying to compete with Marvel Infinite Scroll stuff like webtoons. Makes sense. Actually, my aunt saw some advertising in the city on a train recently with this Go thing, and she's like, "Hey, have you heard of this?" I'm like, "Yeah, I subscribe." And like, but it's interesting to see that the marketing efforts are going somewhere.
I mean, DC seems to be the only one out of the big two that actually is doing marketing, so it's nice to see.
Now they are.
Yeah, since All In, they have been.
Man, um, I'm not gonna lie, this is a great deal. It's an absolutely great deal. If it doesn't bother you that you are out of the loop for a month, then that's fantastic. I would not partake in this just because it's digital. I really like I can't state enough. I probably state too much how much I don't enjoy reading digitally, but for everybody else, it's great.
Sean, if you subscribe to the 120 a year, you get a free gift of a member exclusive graphic novel print variant.
Yes, they
Wasn't
give
it
you something.
wasn't it like Man of Steel or something? Or it was Superman for all
Doomsday.
seasons?
There
Or
was a
Secret
Doomsday
Origin?
thing.
I think it was a Doomsday thing because Atomic Hound in the Discord shared
Yeah,
it.
it was definitely a Superman thing though.
Which that's great value, dude. Like think about it for them. If let's say you're using the app, you've paid them 200 sorry $120. They give you something graphic novel. What is that? $20 for them? $30? You stick around?
Yeah, Comics Are Dope says I've been a DC Universe sub since 2018 when it had TV shows. It literally helped me get into comics. That's the last
Same.
time I subscribed. Marco was
Same.
like Swamp Thing TV show, sure.
Easy. Boom. Done. I've been a subscriber ever since.
Yeah, I signed up once I heard Doom Patrol was a TV show. I'm like, hell yeah, I'm in.
Oh, and you got an iPad?
No.
Yeah, he reads
That'll
on
be
web.
that'll be why. You gotta get an iPad of some kind so you can experience a digital comic.
There's a reason why he doesn't. He doesn't want to enjoy it.
I mean, look, but with these prices like this, like
I I experienced digital comics in the best way that I ever have at Comic-Con through the
Yeah.
Global Comics Reader app, and that was on an iPad. And it was a great experience. Like genuinely, it was a great experience. I liked it. It was fun. You can like zoom in on the panels and stuff like that. But I like it was fun, but I wouldn't want to do that on a regular basis. It's like, oh wow, that's novel. That's cute. Like I like it, but long term, it's not for me.
you don't use that Zoom thing ever.
Yeah, yeah.
I
The guided
typically don't.
view.
Yeah, I usually just do a page.
Yeah,
Same.
yeah.
I was trying to like fuck with it, to get an actual like user experience.
Yeah, of
But I'm
course.
not even criticizing that part. I thought that was kind of cool. Like sometimes there's
Yeah.
detail that it's like, oh shit, I can zoom in and see a little more. I want to hold it. I want to feel the comic.
Was it
Yeah.
panel view, Sean, where like the panel was almost cut out and you're just seeing the panels?
Yeah, you could do
Yeah.
it that way, but you could do it anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It gave you a lot of control, which I liked.
Yeah, and Global Comics in particular, I think is really good because they like customize all the panels. Usually for like Comixology and for DC,
Hit or
it's just
miss.
like
Yeah.
a preset zoom that you scroll through. Whereas for that, they like even text comes in over time, and they do a lot of stuff with it.
Which I wouldn't read it this way, but that would work for a phone panel view.
Yes,
It's
exactly.
doable. Like
Yeah,
you're on the
panel view.
subway, boom, boom, boom. Yeah.
Well, but that's why they have the Go, right? That's why Webtoons is so
Yeah.
popular. Is
Yeah.
because you can read it on the go. You read it on the train. You're targeting a different consumer, which makes sense as to why my aunt saw that advertisement. You're targeting the
Was it on the subway?
it was on the subway.
Yeah,
You're
there you
targeting
go.
right the user who is a commuter.
It
That's
was,
value.
It was in between a dating app ad and then like Dr. Zizmore.
Sure. Yeah.
Ex- did- okay. Did you say Doctor Who?
Dr. Zizmore?
Oh, I thought you said Doctor Who porn. I was like, what the fuck?
And it's bigger on the inside.
Listen, those New York City subway ads, man, like
New York City subway ads. Go on the Patreon. Also did a whole thing on it just this last newsletter. So go check it out.
oh, interesting.
Are we gonna do
Almost
one?
like that could bring in some viewers.
If we slap Marco's mug on a Subway ad, that might work. We get all the bears just on our channel now.
No.
Bro, we've already got all the bears on our channel.
Oh my God, we don't need to bring on more people who want to fuck Marco, unless they're willing to pay. If you're willing to pay, that's
We're not
different.
gonna whore out Marco, for lack of a better phrase.
Hey, easy,
Tyler,
easy.
Yeah, we are.
Hey, Tyler, don't speak for me.
Okay, all right, he's into it. That's why Nora won
We
Best
already
Picture.
spoke to Jade. Jade is down. Marco is for sale.
Yeah.
Easily.
Yeah.
Flaming Jelly Beans makes a great point. 99 likes. Let's get to over 100. We have steadily had over 100 people here, and it's been a beautiful thing. Thank you so much. But I do agree. Let's get those likes up. Uncanny Suit said Sean's brain has gone full Goner mode, and it's all our fault.
Has gone? That's default.
It is all your fault. And what you don't know is that for all these years, I've just been suppressing myself. This was a different kind of podcast before. But now, well, when in Rome, do as. All right.
You ass?
Do
Man.
Those
You
Romans were
asked.
all about that. Yeah.
do as. A-S. ...
The Romans do. Yada yada.
Yes. All right. We are going to talk a little bit about, if we can, it's very late in the game, so just a little bit of Daredevil Season 2 chat. We've all had the opportunity, I think, to watch the first couple episodes. It's all that's out. Drops every Tuesday on Disney Plus. Daredevil Born Again. They got the band back together. All the characters you're familiar with are all here. The actors are there, reprising their roles and such. Notably, it wasn't always going to be like that. They got a lot of pushback from fans and actors, and they switched things up. The show definitely feels like that on some level. Tyler, where are you at with the first couple episodes?
Spoiler free, right?
Yeah.
I think it's good so far. I really liked the Netflix Daredevil. I think there's some really great stuff there, and I think this show feels like that, but it feels like it's trying to be that.
Okay, thank you.
In the sense that I still think it's better than most MCU shows, but it does feel like it's trying to ape something. I think my other issue was with it that it lacks the stank in a good way that the Netflix version had in terms of the way it was shot, the cinematography of it. Where this one, there's one really good bit where it as Matt is using his radar senses or whatever, it switches from like a widescreen to like a full screen format and it zooms you in for focusing. I was like, okay, cool. There's some artistry behind this, but I do feel like it runs into the same issue a lot of modern day MCU does, where everything just feels overexposed. Where it, like the original Netflix one, like everything was like had some heavy shadows and some like darks. This feels a little too lit, which is probably for CG, and I know that, but it still kind of took me out of it. I like it enough to be like the Wilson Fisk and the Matt Murdock interactions enough where I'm like, okay, I'm in. These actors are still doing what they want to do. I think that's great, but it does feel like the MCU version of a Netflix show.
The CG I felt in that first fight, I did not expect that. Like
The swinging,
especially for the what?
the swinging.
The smoke screen.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're muted, Sean.
Oh, I just said CG smoke, which was ridiculous.
Yeah. And I especially coming from the OG series, which had like handheld cam, single shots, right? Like that immediately felt like a step down. And the rest of how the story progresses is quick pace as well. It like it worked in twofold. Like for me, it felt like I'm like, yo, slow down, hold on, like let me absorb all the shit that's going on. Give me a second. But at the same time, it's like, okay, this is reflecting Matt. Fine, cool, get that part. And we get to what feels like the lay of the land by the end of the first episode. I've only seen the first episode. I didn't get a chance to watch the second one. So at the very least, I'm hoping, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, that the second one doesn't feel as quick paced because I wanted this first one to be set up. I can accept that, but the rest of it, I want it to feel like a slow burn again.
I don't think so. um, it felt for me both episodes felt very quick, but um, especially in the second one, it felt very good. Yeah,
Okay,
I think I like the second one better than I like the first one.
okay,
Because I think the second one sets up a lot more, excuse me, a lot more of the conflict we're here to see. You know, not just Kingpin versus Daredevil or Kingpin versus or Wilson Fisk versus, you know, Matt Murdock, but Matt versus Daredevil and Kingpin versus Wilson Fisk. And that's the real character stuff. There's a moment in uh uh with Fisk in the second episode um that I genuinely thought felt very Netflix and that they wouldn't do it. I went, oh, this is gonna be some bullshit. And then they did it, and I went, okay. And it's you know, I don't again, I'm not gonna spoil anything, but um I think I agree with Tyler. I think it feels like it's trying to be the Netflix series, and I don't necessarily think uh it's gonna hit that height at this point anyway. Like I don't perceive that. But as far as like the Disney TV stuff goes, I think it's really good. At at least what we've got. And boy, when we got that first pre-title scene for you know, where we saw the CG and the Daredevil suit, and I was like, oh no, they've lost it. They put the stank on him. Oh no. I was like, this is some PS3 video game shit. What is happening? This Frank Miller's The Spirit looks better than this.
I uh I I I don't know, man. This is a weird one because I'm very aware of the behind the scenes production with this, and I know that there was a desire for originally for Daredevil to not appear for like the first 5 episodes or something like that. And there was a lot of reworking. And the first episode feels like that. It's pretty clear to me that they really were not going to have any Daredevil. And then the first episode forced a Daredevil appearance into it in a way that was very bizarre. Without spoilers, like it's hard to talk about without spoilers, but like that first Daredevil fight felt ham-fisted in like you want
Yeah.
your Daredevil, here's your fucking Daredevil, and we're gonna move on from this and you can forget about it. And then the second episode in comparison feels a lot more cohesive. I enjoyed the story of that episode a little more. I like how we followed Kingpin. I'm interested in what's going on with his wife and stuff like that, and Matt's journey is compelling as well. But the dialogue is rough, man. I'm a stickler.
Especially in the first one, man.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
that first part. I'm so sorry to interrupt. That first part, but to me, felt like a dream.
The what were the gangs walking and talking about local New York landmarks?
Man, like the stuff they were talking about in the bar felt so like so expository that I was like, I can't believe this is what's happening on this Disney show right in front of me.
I don't know about you, Cale, but like there are moments when I'm watching something where like even a minuscule dialogue feeling wrong pulls me out of it.
Oh yeah,
And the original Daredevil show was to me really well written. Like the actual dialogue
Yeah.
was good.
crisp.
And here it's like every few lines I'm like, "Oh, that doesn't ring true. Like that's not doesn't feel like a true piece of language or of dialogue."
Where Fisk just randomly name drops a man in a spider suit, you know?
Yeah, and it's like I'm not bothered by the mention, but the way it was inserted
Yeah.
is just like
Yep.
like
I
what?
heard Feige saying
Yeah.
that. That's what it felt like.
Yeah.
Like
I,
no one would say that.
I will say so. My just for like personal anecdote, like my dad loved the Daredevil show, and he watched this, or I think he enjoyed it. But like, so they filmed some of it in my home city in Yonkers, in some of the courtroom scenes, and a local judge actually made a Facebook post about it because that's all a local judge is going to be on, about how it's a little confusing. If you only watch Daredevil Netflix and then you go into this as like the next season, it is confusing because Fisk has so much other stuff that happened in the MCU and Hawkeye and Echo that you're missing out if you just treat this as another season. So I know comics are dope. Mentioned is this new reader or new viewer? How do you guys feel about Daredevil Born Again for new viewers? I watched the first 10 minutes and I felt like I was missing out because I never watched the Netflix Daredevil. Get past that and you'll be fine, I think. But yeah, I just feel like you do need some homework too to just jump back into this for the Fisk of it all, for sure.
I didn't. I've only seen season 1, maybe bits of season 2 of Daredevil, and then I saw Defenders, and then I've jumped straight into this. I know Kingpin is in Hawkeye, but I have no idea. I think he's wearing a Hawaiian shirt. I vaguely
Yeah.
recall
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, it's very
Yeah.
Spider-Man family business. Yeah,
But I don't know. I agree with you. The first 10 minutes are the hard part, and not just because of the dialogue and the CG, but I also think in that particular thing they were trying to set something up that needed to be addressed so that you could get past it and into what they want you to do,
Care about.
see,
Yeah.
care about.
If you didn't watch Cale seasoned, but like if you didn't watch season 3 or any of Daredevil, who the fuck do you think Daredevil was fighting in the first like 10 minutes of the episode? Because I don't think they directly say they say his in show name, but they don't
yeah.
say his
Which
character name, how we know him.
his in-show
I
name
sure
is
shit
also
didn't know.
his in-show name is different than his comic name too.
Right.
Yeah.
You said I've seasoned, but I went, who the fuck is that?
Well, Michael Nadeau is calling you out for not watching season 3 because that's where it happens.
Jade came into this fresh, cold, right? Like, so she's like, I don't know. I'm like, don't worry about it. A lot of context. It was like 3 seasons. You're fine. Let's try to push through it. And then by the end, it's like, okay, I understand. Like the new threads are enough to tug you along.
Yeah.
And as a Mark Waid, Chris Somney fan of their run, seeing Kirsten McDuffie in this, I was pretty hyped for that.
True. Yeah. Yeah. Crocodile and Trennan, say that 5 times fast, said, for me, the show's pacing and character progression were all over the place, which was especially apparent in episode 2. The dialogue feels flat and the cinematography seems uninteresting. I'm with the sentiment that this is a pretty good show for the Disney Plus line of shows. If it wasn't on Disney Plus, or like if it was a show that had no association to Daredevil whatsoever, I probably wouldn't watch it, quite frankly. But the one thing that I don't think can be denied is that the Netflix show just felt right. And whatever that means, it's hard to explain. It's almost esoteric, but I never questioned the cinematography. I never
Yeah.
questioned the dialogue. I never questioned the costumes. I didn't question the acting. Whereas with this, there are a lot of times, even with some of the principal actors, where I'm like, that could have used another take or a dialogue pass.
It's still an MCU project, you know? And like it or not, like it's got flaws that are becoming more and more apparent the longer we go on.
I hate to agree, but when I haven't enjoyed a show in a while, I really don't know what the argument is. I don't know how to argue against that. I don't think these shows have been good largely. And this is the same group of people. So
Yeah.
What was the last one we had?
the last
Show.
live action, was that not Echo?
Or was it Loki season 3?
I think it might have
Loki
been.
season,
Might
yeah,
have-
yeah,
Okay.
Loki.
Okay.
yeah, Loki.
I remember season 1 was Drew Goddard.
Yeah.
Drew Goddard, Stephen DeKnight.
Yeah, Steve DeKnight, I think,
Yes.
continued it.
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Man, Drew Goddard, that's a name I like to see.
Yeah.
He didn't get
yeah.
canceled, right? Am I okay in saying that?
I don't. Didn't Stephen DeKnight? I feel like
he said he didn't get canceled, but he said like just some like stuff. Was it during the strikes?
Yes. Yeah. What's I think I'm thinking of the X-Men guy.
Oh yeah.
Oh God.
That's not him.
No, he's not.
Okay,
No,
all right.
X-Men guy. That is Roman Polanski levels of cancellation.
Brian Singer. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, not that X-Men guy. The
Oh.
other X-Men
Right,
guy. No, not that X-Men guy. The other X-Men guy. The recent one, the show.
Oh, Bo DeMayo.
That's it.
Oh my God.
I like how you
Man.
said the X-Men guy, and there's 3 easy names you can
Woof.
toss out there. Jesus
Christ. I always want to write X-Men.
Boo-
I do not now.
Boosh says aggressively mediocre is like every Disney Plus show.
Damn.
I like Miss Marvel a lot.
I like Miss
That
Marvel
was
too.
that was very good.
I feel
but
like the animated ones are doing better right now. X-Men 97 and Friendly Neighborhood are great.
Are you guys on the hook for the rest of the season, or where you at?
I have Daredevil tattooed on my body. I'm going to take any Daredevil that I can get.
Fucking Mark.
Oh, 100%. I got some Catholic guilt for this.
Oh, Jonathan Chow says last show was Agatha all along.
Oh, I love that show. It was
yeah,
great.
yeah.
That was one of my favorite
A lot
ones.
of people really like that. I'm not touching it.
That shit.
Yeah, I'm not touching it with a 10-foot pole.
Same. Yeah, I'm gonna watch the second episode, see how I feel. Then maybe.
I actually really enjoyed the second episode. Like I said, more than the first. And yeah, I think it was enough to get me in.
I'm on the hook.
I don't even watch a lot of TV. Like right now, I'm watching this Traders, which just ended, and RuPaul's Drag Race. So I think I'll watch some more Daredevil.
See, yeah, I watch I watch Cheers and Star Trek reruns.
You would.
So yeah.
Which
Jess is out of town. I'm the only one that gets to do anything in the house. So
Cale, what's your stance on Tuvix?
Oh,
Don't get
boy,
too into it.
that's
Yeah,
tough, huh?
That's a tough one. Yeah.
She didn't do him right. Yeah, it's a good show when you get through the episode and you go, I'm gonna start lifting weights, man. I could do this shit.
Just because you look like comic book Matt Murdock doesn't mean.
Listen, yes, it does.
All right.
you're on Voyager, Kel?
Like how that's what Marco gathered from all that. He's just, I'm still stuck on the Star Trek.
There's a channel that plays like a sci-fi block from like 4 to 7, 8, and Voyager has been on that 7 o'clock rotation for years at this point.
Okay.
All right, we're not going to review the rest of the episodes of Daredevil. We just don't have the space anywhere to do that. Maybe there'll be a retrospective that we can do when it's over if we all finish it. But we all thought it would be good to just kind of chat about the first couple episodes and, see what you guys are thinking about it. Matt Fisher with
Oof.
the $4.99 super chat says, I watched this, The Rookie, and Grey's Anatomy since day one. Oh, gee.
Wow.
By this, you mean this show, right? So those are the only things that you actually watch, which means I'm not going to see you super chatting all up and down Salamonster's channel.
I watched Daredevil, The Rookie, and Grey's. Wait, is he saying the Comics Pals? I watched this, the Comics Pals, The Rookie, and Grey's Anatomy.
I think he meant Daredevil. I was just shitting on
Oh.
him. Planet 628 says, nice to see you guys don't drink the Kool-Aid with this show. It's not, I don't think it's bad. It's not as good as the original.
Fine.
Yeah.
And I believe it was
2 episodes in.
I believe it was
Right.
Flavor Aid that people were drinking actually.
Yeah, what's the scuttlebutt?
I've seen a lot of people saying it's like really, really great, personally.
Oh, yeah,
Oh.
that's
Well,
no.
all right.
Yeah, different strokes. Again, it's
Yeah.
not a bad show,
Yeah.
but when you have the original to compare it to, I don't know. I don't see it.
I mean, Jeremy Kulo here says my Disney Plus is off until next month when Doctor Who and Star Wars Andor hit. I'm excited for Andor. Andor is great.
I need to watch
Listen,
that again.
Oh my
the
god,
only
so
reason I
good.
kept Disney Plus is because we are slogging through the later seasons of X Files.
Did you get to the Badla yet? The Deep Roy who crawls into people's butts.
Probably,
I think it's like season 3 or something.
probably.
Yeah.
I think we're midway through season 8,
Just at that
and
point,
it's
give up. And somebody mentioned in the chat, just watch Fringe. It's a better X Files than latter day X Files.
no, we're committed. When Jess and I got together, when Dr. Hot Dog and I got together in February of 2013, we said, "Oh, X Files is coming back. We should let's just do the whole thing." And it's taken us this long.
Jesus. Oh no.
X Files came and went and died again, and we still haven't watched the whole. We haven't even gotten to the reboot.
That's crazy, dude. One day we should go live and just talk about TV. The chat is shouting out all these different kinds of shows and stuff, and like we literally just don't even have time to talk about all that.
Yeah, why not?
I'm down.
What we do have time for, though, the last piece of business that we have time for is the patrons. We always have time for you guys. Hang around as we say thank you to the rest of our patrons. And quickly, I will get through a new origin because we are tardy on that. Thank you to the Grand Alchemist, Chop Harder Alchemist, John Barrier B, Doomsday, David Melendez Doria, Steve Swarm Canaris, Panda V Panda, Ted Wong, Mad Max, the Absolute Overthinker, Blur, Jekyll Jose, Kobe the Crafter, Scripture, the Wardens of the Word, Hecatron, the Hate Machine, Amin Almighty Perez, Houston Murphy,
Century Kid.
thank you, and Jasper the Gasper, Eddie. Also, want to quickly thank Lucas Holner, whose origin is impending. But today, the spotlight is on Peter, the Living Lightning, Electrics. The first few days after the incident, Peter saw his life in flashes, moments that came and went like bolts of lightning. His body, covered in Lichtenberg scars that told the story of his present condition, had become a prison for his mind, where he was confronted by all that he had, all that he would lose: the family, the friends, her. Peter had been lucky in love and met his person young. She entered his life in a flash. Their romance was a whirlwind, a one in a million love that was the envy of their peers. She had always seen the best in him, and now she had to see him like this: incapacitated, scarred, nearly beyond recognition, broken. Luck, he'd always believed, had brought them together. Now, those one in a million odds struck again, only this time it was in the form of a lightning strike. It destroyed him in ways he would only learn in time. Days became weeks, became months, and Peter lay in that hospital bed, unable to so much as twitch a muscle. The doctors and nurses did all they could to keep him stable, but his body wasn't reacting to treatment, and the scarring hadn't improved. What they couldn't know was that the worst battle was being fought inside of Peter's mind. His memory became fragmented and deceptive. He was beginning to forget parts of his life, remembering things differently than he had before. He realized that if he could not escape his fate, he would do worse than die. He would live this half-life inside the body of a man he didn't recognize, memories shattering in his mind like glass, with no hope of putting the pieces back together. Years had gone by. She sat by his bed as she had dutifully for some time. Her visits were far less frequent now, but she had long given up hope in her love waking up. She had to live her life. Peter, she said. He didn't recognize that name anymore. I've hesitated to tell you this for some silly reason. I keep thinking you can hear me in there. But that's why I had to come and tell you that, Peter, I've met someone. He's not you, but you're not you anymore. And he's a good man. I do love him. We're getting married. I asked your mother for her blessing, and she told me she knew you'd only want me to be happy. And I am, Peter. I need you to know that. Peter felt a spark inside himself that he hadn't felt since before all this. She was giving up on him. She, who was his reason and purpose. If he could wake up from this horrible nightmare right now, she could see that even though the road would be long, it would still be their road to walk together. He pushed and willed himself to her voice. She watched Peter intently for a beat, almost waiting for him to stir to give her a sign that he was still there. She rose from her seat, walked toward the door, and turned to Peter. I will always love you, Peter. She couldn't see it, but the Lichtenberg scars became raised on Peter's skin. He exerted more effort than he had all these years to reach her, to hold her. As she exited the room, Peter pushed his consciousness forward with everything he had, his scars glowing the purplish hue of the lightning that forever altered his life, and he felt himself moving for the first time in almost a decade. But his body lies still. Instead, the Lichtenberg scars rose off of his body. The spider's web of marks, now in a constant state of changing shapes. This horrible, beautiful, shifting mass was Peter now. He observed his body from this new position and didn't recognize it as himself. All he knew, all he still remembered was her, and that was enough. In a flash, the Lichtenberg ghost that was now Peter moved through the walls of the hospital room, leaving his prison behind once and for all. He always knew he would see her in a wedding gown one day, and that she would be radiant when that day came. He did see her in that gown, and she was radiant, but the cruel twist of the luck Peter believed so strongly in was that he had to watch her walk down the aisle with another. And she was happy. The accident that happened a decade ago took everything from him, but he was still alive. He decided then that he would pick up the pieces of his fragmented mind and learn to live in this new form. The past is dead. He has to discover who he is now. Thank you, Peter. Sorry for the accident. Sometimes that's how luck goes.
Damn, dude, my man got done dirty.
Written by Zeb Wells.
uh, did you know that Electric's name is Peter?
Yes.
Oh, okay. He seemed surprised by that fact.
For the listener, if you don't know, the Lichtenberg scars are the lightning scars that happen to people when they are struck by lightning. It's literally where the lightning like burns through like their veins and stuff. Pretty crazy.
Not to be confused with Hindenburg scars, which look like blimps in Zeppelin.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. The effects of a lightning strike are way worse than I knew.
Yeah.
Because most people live, but you live bad.
You ever get close to one? Like you ever I almost got struck once. It struck about 20 feet next to me.
I once when I lived in Fargo, my the tree outside my house got struck. Big flash, big boom, and the tree was on fire.
Air feels weird
Yo.
too afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I would never want to be around that. My God.
I heard a story about somebody who got struck by lightning. It was my ex's like family friend, struck by lightning, but then died from a swarm of bees.
It's
Whoa.
rough.
Yeah,
Talk
right.
about bad luck.
Yeah, I know.
Nature had it out.
Less than a 1 in a million shot of getting hit by lightning and you die by bees. Fuck. Thanks for the kind words. Appreciate it. Lectrix, I'm glad you enjoyed it. He says, awesome and epic, kick-ass origin, Sean. Thanks a ton. You're very welcome. Thank you for being a patron of ours. Anybody who wants that kind of origin from any one of us, frankly, just be a part of the Patreon. Patreon.com/thecomicspals. The Palsverse tier, that's the way to get the origin, as Electrix did, as Lucas Hallner will be. So really appreciate you guys for that. Shu Patel says that was incredible. Thank you. Last Young Renegade said that was brutal. I saw the scars, and my mind went to a place. I don't know. That's how it works. Anyway, thank you so much. Today's been incredible. You guys have been amazing, amazing, amazing. We appreciate you. Catch us Monday with Pals Previews. We will be back with that. You can hear our thoughts on all of the great books that are releasing this week. Then hear our review of some of those great books on Thursday on Pals Pulls. And then we'll be back here Saturday at 10:15 a.m. for this very show. Thank you so much for showing up and supporting us. We will see you in the next one. Until then,